The CoCo Crew Podcast is hosted by CyberEars. If you are serious about your podcast hosting needs, you should check out CyberEars. Whether you are a podcaster, a radio host, a musician, a narrator, an audiobook author, or simply a school, church, corporation, or anyone else with an audio recording that needs to be hosted or distributed, you should check out cyberears.com. Unlimited bandwidth, fast, reliable, and rugged servers with no hidden fees. CyberEars, your audio, your terms.
Listen, it's getting closer.
Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet? Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?
You're listening to the CoCo Crew Podcast, a delicious adventure into the world of retro computing news and information featuring the Tandy Color Computer. Okay, here we are, episode 19. Welcome back, CoCo Cruisers. This is John Linville, and I'm joined by Neil Blanchard.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Neil.
Hello.
And Mike Rowan. How are you, Mike?
I'm great. CoCo Christmas, everyone.
CoCo Christmas. Awesome. Well, it is Christmas time. Always a lovely time of the year. At least for me, my employer traditionally shuts down between Christmas and New Year's, so giving me plenty of time to work on CoCo projects. Hopefully, I've got the time. Hopefully, I'll get to the projects this year. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 days to get started, and then by the time you're 2 or 3 days in, everybody's kind of stir crazy and they want to go out and go see a movie or something, so you lose another day or two. You end up getting only 2 days at the end, but hopefully it'll work out better than that. But anyway, yeah, so CoCo Fest is, 4 months away now? It'll be coming up in April.
Crazy.
Hard to imagine, huh?
That's amazing. CoCo Fest to me, that's when the New Year starts. You know, I count the New Year as a CoCo Fest.
That's true.
Well, I count it as Christmas, or at least it's the second Christmas.
Second Christmas. Christmas you got to pay for. We ask every month, but have you guys got projects underway or started for CoCo Fest?
I'm still waiting for parts. Hopefully they're here soon.
Oh yeah.
I'm
I think
chipping
you've ordered
away.
if they're coming from China.
Oh yeah.
They take a while sometimes.
Do they ever? And no tracking either. So.
Yeah. Well, it's usually free. That's a good point. But then you got no tracking, and it takes some parts.
Yeah.
So.
We're always
How about
waiting
you,
for
Mike?
parts. Yeah, I'm waiting for parts. I got Ian's FD502 board, and I don't have 2 of the sockets I need, so I'm waiting for sockets to arrive to finish that board.
Wow. Well, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm still not actually into any of my projects. I've got a couple of things in mind. Hopefully, I'll get at least 1 or 2 of them going strong here in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, get some kind of game goodness coming. Maybe put the shoulder to the wheel on a little hardware design, but we'll see. Still got a little time before CoCo Fest for something to gel. Hopefully it'll be something good. So what about acquisitions? You guys been on eBay or doing anything that way, or maybe you stumbled across some new gold mine of a thrift shop or anything nearby?
Well, actually, I did splurge on eBay. I couldn't resist. There was a multi-pack listed. Actually, it was in North Bay, Ontario, so it's a couple hours from here. And the reason why I got it, I don't need another multi-pack, but this one just caught my eye. It was modded, and it had these funky LEDs for each slot. And there's a green LED and a red LED. Now, I haven't fired it up yet. I want to find out what it does. But yeah, sometimes when you see these mods that people have done in the past, it just intrigues you, and you just want to check it out.
Yeah. One probably represents the ROM select, and the other one probably represents what the interrupt routing or something like that.
That'd be cool.
So that if you switch them in software, it'll indicate which one is in use. That'd be my guess.
That'd be really neat. I'll have to let you guys know.
Yeah,
And I
so that'd be kind of cool.
Also made another purchase, not on eBay, but I've been wanting one for a while, as you know. I've been messaging about it, but the CryoFlux, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, for doing disk images, disk copies.
Cool.
So that should be pretty interesting when it arrives. That's coming from the UK, so that'll probably take a while too.
Cool. Well, sounds like a tech segment brewing.
Yeah, definitely.
I might actually do one on it because I want to get knee deep into it. So.
Yeah, I've got one of those. I've barely experimented with it, so I've never actually put it to good use. And mine is so early, I wouldn't be surprised if my hardware is broken and out of date and I just miss the updates. I hope that's not true. Anyway. Well, cool. So it sounds like you've got some cool stuff brewing. I have a couple of minor acquisitions. I did pick up a CGP 220 operations manual, original manual.
Nice.
Off of eBay. It's kind of cool to flip through. It's just like any other printer manual. You kind of have to have a special kind of weirdness to appreciate that sort of thing, but it's nice to have anyway.
Oh, for sure.
And I also got a copy Graph Express for the CoCo 3. Are you guys familiar with Graph Express?
Yes, I've got a copy of that as well.
I haven't actually dug into it yet, but it looks like a programming environment for doing some graphical applications. Part of why I was interested in it is, it actually has, it appears to have support for the 8-bit color graphics mode on the CoCo 3 actually built into it. Kind of sort of quietly built into it. It's a little understated. I don't know why, but it mentions it in some of the documentation about having I think it calls it 256 colors, but the special mode for the composite only. It's Graph Express 256 is a graphic sound system based on 256 color graphics, and will work on composite monitors or color televisions. At least this one package from back then that supported it, and now I've got it. A physical copy in hand. I can prove it.
Pixel Blaster is the other programming environment that has some similarities.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. Cool. Well, something to check out. Graph Express. I'm thinking that maybe it would be worthy of a tech segment at some point. Does that cover it? All our acquisitions?
I was just going to say, do you want to talk about the AgVision incident?
Oh, oh God!
It's still too
heartbreak.
Oh, it's a heartbreak. Yeah. Well, all right. So for most of our listeners have probably heard of the Videotex terminals, which looks a lot like, but it ultimately is a kind of a different motherboard with a serial or with a modem, 300 baud modem built in. And it was used for access textual information on remotely attached computers back in the day, like CompuServe and Genie, Delphi. There was a machine that, at least externally, appears to be the same, called an AgVision terminal, which I believe to have been like the stopgap or the thing to keep offering to the people who had been involved with the earlier Project Green Thumb that eventually led to the CoCo in the first place. So this AgVision terminal is kind of unique in that, well, number one, it has the label above the keyboard that says AgVision, and it's painted kind of this light blue or medium blue color. Kind of neat. And I'd only seen one once before, not in person, but on eBay, years ago. Found a picture of it that actually it was from Glenn Vandebigler's site, I think, right? And, borrowed the picture and posted it out on Google Plus and said, these, if anybody has one, and I'll make it worth your while, basically is what I was saying. And I can't help now but wonder whether or not that ultimately was a mistake. Because
now you're held hostage.
Having that little thing out, I think may have served to make someone aware of this rare. And so I get a comment on there that said, hey, I just bought one of these on eBay. And so best I can tell, they were watching the newly listed items on eBay and happened to see this blue thing that looked like a CoCo come across, and they bought it. And just to add a little insult to injury, they managed to pick it up for $50. Yeah. And so I can't help but wonder if I made this person aware of something they would not otherwise have been aware of, in which case it might have been on eBay on the market a little longer, possibly long enough that I could have seen it, in which case I might could have been the guy picking it up for $50. But instead, alas, that is not what happened. And so someone else picked it up. It's one of Neil's countrymen there, is Canadian. And it seems like a nice enough guy. He's offered to take some pictures of the inside. So we'll at least maybe get to see if it truly is the same as the Videotex terminals or not. I did offer him a kind of ridiculous amount of money for the box and was turned down. So I guess he's serious about keeping it. But my ridiculous amount of money, which was I don't know if I should disclose or not. Anyway, if anyone else does have one and is interested in hearing what my idea of a ridiculous amount of money for one is, please feel free to contact me, and then we can negotiate from there. Oh well. Well, that's a long story and a long introduction, but it probably makes enough of an introduction for the show. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great one.
All right. Well, with that in mind, we'll take a little break, and we'll be back in a second with some announcements.
The CoCo Crew Podcast wishes you the happiest of holidays.
During Christmas, the color computer, displayed as a full system, should be on at all times, including a color TV, a cassette recorder, cartridge software, disk drive, joysticks, multi-pack interface, plug-in power, education and entertainment software, dust covers, ribbons, diskettes and diskette holders, second color computer, second cassette recorder, a second color TV, a second plug-in power, power strip, and modem. A software package with a free running demo should be on at all times. A perfect example of that type of program would be Dungeons of Daggereth. Again, a software package with a free running demo should be on at all times. All of the other peripherals are displayed nearby. Notice a second color TV is hooked in through a splitter, so you can have two demos running at one time. Remember, during Christmas, the color computer should be on at all times.
It's Radio Shack's spectacular Christmas sale. I just got a great buy for my stereo system. These Radio Shack speakers on sale for $39.95 each. That's half price, a real bargain. A two-way bass reflex system, incredible bass, clear, crisp highs, and a rich walnut veneer finish. Looks great, sounds great. And for a limited time, get the matching walnut veneer 64K color computer too. It entertains, educates, and manages. It's expandable and affordable, and features a rich walnut veneer finish. On sale now for just $99.95. Only at Radio Shack. We walnut veneer everything.
CoCo Christmas. CoCo Christmas, everyone. CoCo Christmas.
All right, welcome back, CoCo Cruisers. Now it's time for some announcements. We are the CoCo Crew Podcast. We are available on Twitter as CoCo Crew Podcast. That's CoCocrewPodcast, all one word. So if you are someone who likes to tweet, check us out there at CoCo Crew Podcast. We're also available on Facebook. We have a Facebook group called The CoCo Crew Podcast. That's with spaces in between. So The Space CoCo Space Crew Space Podcast. And no, it's not a space podcast. That's it's a podcast about old computers. Anyway, come and check us out if you are on Facebook. Come and join the group. No shortage of people joining the group. Of course, a lot of the requests, they show up, and it's a picture of a supermodel-esque 22-year-old woman with 45 friends, all of them middle-aged men. But no, pictures of flowers and cars and horses or something, but no indication of actual interest in old computers. I'm not really sure what all those people are trying to join the group. They tend to get turned down. Once in a while, we've let some questionable people into the Color Computer Facebook group, and we end up with pictures of inappropriate tattoos and that sort of thing.
Well, the CoCo tattoos, we'll let that slide.
Yeah, a CoCo tattoo is one thing, but a CoCo, that an elephant in a place that would normally be covered by a bathing suit on a man is probably not appropriate for the CoCo Facebook group. Sorry. I hope that's not too explicit for any of our listeners. Anyway, moving on, as we probably should. We are available on iTunes, available for streaming through Stitcher, available on Google Play, and we are available on TuneIn, which is a service available through the Amazon Echo device. So if you got an Amazon Echo for Christmas, as many of you might be prone to have gotten, feel free to check us out. We are a member of the Throwback Network, an online collection of retro-themed podcasts, many of which are themed around old computers. Some are also concentrating on other portions of 80s culture or other cool old stuff. Anyway, if you're looking for another podcast to fill some of your listening time, you may want to check out the Throwback Network, by Game Podcast Information Hub. This is also a collection of other podcasts, retro-themed podcasts. These are all technology-based, so or home consoles or home computers from generally the 80s or perhaps the early 90s in the case of some of the DOS-oriented podcasts that are listed there. But anyway, again, if you're looking for another outlet for your podcast listening, you may want to check out the Game by Game Podcast Information Hub. Audio for the CoCo Crew Podcast is hosted by Cyber Ears. Needs to have audio content hosted on the internet, so you should check out cyberears.com, where you will get your audio on your terms. If you'd like to reach us with feedback on the show, we have some email addresses set up. If you want to reach all of the hosts together, you can use show@cococrew.org, podcast@cococrew.org, or feedback@cococrew.org. Each of those will reach all of the hosts. If you want to reach one of the hosts individually, then you can reach me as John@cococrew.org. That's JOHN. You can reach Neil as Neil, Neil, @cococrew.org. Or you can reach Mike as Mike, Mike@cococrew.org. All right. At this point, we'd like to remind you of some upcoming events that may be of interest to listeners of the podcast. Starting off this month with a new one. I don't think we've talked about this before. This one is sort of in my neighborhood. This is called the Playthrough Gaming Convention. This will be held on February 25th and 26th of 2017 at the Raleigh Convention Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. Like I said, I've never been to this event, but it looks like kind of a typical gaming convention with well, it's got things from gaming tournaments and cosplay and just all kinds of yeah.
Nice to
all
have something a
kinds-
little more local for you.
Yeah, so it looks like a fun event. I think this is the second or third year they've had it. I was not aware of it until recently. I have not registered for this yet, but I may. I'm kind of thinking that I will. If you're near me or roughly where Raleigh's within your travel distance, you may want to check that out. That's again the Playthrough Gaming Convention, February 25th and 26th of 2017. Coming up next on the list, Vintage Computer Festival East 12. This, of course, will be held at the Info Age Science Center in Wall, New Jersey on March 31st through April the 2nd of 2017. The first day will be Friday that the way they run their show, they have kind of technical seminars and that sort of things for the truly dedicated retro geeks to come and learn how to repair their old machines or clean up their old plastics that have tarnished or turned yellow or whatever. Various kind of topics like that on Friday, followed by the kind of normal exhibit days and with kind of more general interest speakers on Saturday and Sunday. Again, it's a pretty good event. I've been there a couple of times. I'm not sure if I'll be there this year or not, but
I'm definitely going to be there this year.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
I already booked a room.
Yeah? Awesome. So it's a good event, and it's if you're in the Northeast there, or if that's within your travel distance, then I would highly recommend it.
I'm definitely thinking of going to. I just got to work on my wife, because it's approaching a CoCo Fest time, so I got to work on that one.
Yeah, that's the only problem. Sometimes they're pretty close, but at least in this case, they're about 3 weeks apart.
I'm thinking I'm going to be all right on this one.
Yeah, that brings us up to the 20th Chicago CoCo Fest, April 22nd and 23rd of 2017. That, of course, will be held at the Heron Point Convention Center in Lombard, Illinois. This has been the big event for those of us interested in the CoCo. Certainly the reason why part of the reason we started the CoCo Crew Podcast was to promote this event. Certainly our big event we've enjoyed for years. Come and celebrate the CoCo and see what other people are doing with it. Talk about what people are doing with the CoCo, what the CoCo could be doing. Trade CoCos, trade software for the CoCo, or other items. Participate in the auction. Great fun is had by all. Anything you guys like to add about CoCo Fest?
Yeah, you should go.
I was just going to say that you should be there.
Everybody should be there. That's right. If you are enjoying the CoCo Crew Podcast, then you probably should be at CoCo Fest with the rest of us. You will find your people there. All right. Definitely looking forward to that. That's coming up 4 months.
That's the new year.
That's the new year. That's the CoCo Crew New Year, the CoCo Fest. That's right. All right, moving on past the new year to June 9th through 11th of 2017. That takes us to the Southern Fried Game Room Expo, which will be Renaissance Atlanta Waverly Hotel and Convention Center. That, of course, is in Atlanta, Georgia. Looks like a cool event. They have arcade games and pinball machines. I think they're going to have all that stuff on site. The Southern Fried Game Room Expo features more than 250 arcade, pinball, and console machines. The 4th annual Southern Fried Pinball Tournament, tabletop gaming, a vendor expo, exciting programs and guest speakers, movie screenings, and so much more. Sounds like a fun event. I haven't made it out there yet myself. It's kind of a shame because it's not that far away from me. But like I said, I think it'd be a cool event to go to. Hoping to make it. Can't promise it's going to be this year or not, but I'm definitely hoping to make it soon. Mike, were you still wanting to go?
I am, but there's so many events and only so much time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of a problem. I guess it's a good problem to have, though, right? But anyway,
If time and money were no objects, I would attend all these fests, and I really mean that.
yeah. So Red Hat's changed around their vacation policy a little bit. So this coming up here, that there's a greater chance of losing vacation time if you don't take it. So I may be having to maybe forced into having to find ways to use vacation time. So maybe I'll go to a few more of these events.
Oh, shucks! What a problem to have.
Isn't that terrible? Yeah, well, I mean, they used to let you bank it up so you get a check when you quit, I guess, but they cut down on that. Anyway, before I say something my employer regrets, I'll switch back off to tell you about Kansas Fest 2017 coming up on July 18 to 23rd. Now, that's what, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23? That's 6 days. Wow. So Kansas Fest is a cool event. It's basically a summer camp for geeks. If there's an unfortunately, it's unfortunately that it's for Apple II geeks and not CoCo geeks, but they're pretty friendly folks, and as long as you're not openly hostile, I think you'll be welcome to come and join them, hang out. I find that there's a lot of overlap of interest. Many people are interested in more than one old computer anyway, and the Apple II is one that a lot of us have had some exposure to. Anyway, it's a pretty cool event. You go, they have seminars during the day, you hang out with a bunch of other, retro geek style of people, take meals together in the the college cafeteria or whatever. It's held at Rockhurst University in Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah, that's right.
Missouri.
So, yeah, and it's a pretty good event. I've been to it once. I'd like to go again. I keep saying that on every event, but I'd like to go again. I'm not sure if this is the year or not, but I'm keeping it in mind, and it could be. What about you guys? Are you guys putting a thought on going to Kansas Fest this year?
I've got it on my schedule, but I'm like you, and I guess it's a toss-up. Do I go to the Southern Fried Game Room this year, or do I go to Kansas Fest this year? But I don't think I can go to both.
Yeah, well, Kansas Fest is a bigger commitment. It might be a bigger payoff, but yeah, they're both cool. Well, I know Kansas Fest is a cool event. Southern Fried Game Room looks like a cool event too. Of course, it's June in Atlanta, so it won't be too cool outside. But bump. Anyway, well, let's move on. The next event I have on the list, actually the last event, is something called CoCo Expo. I don't know a lot about. It seems to be held in at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center in Edison, New Jersey. Seems to be dedicated to all things CoCo. They seem to have changed their website to be actually in some ways less specific about what's going on there. But
I noticed that.
I think it includes, CoCo video games and CoCo toys. Yeah, so the CoCo Retro Gaming and Collectibles Expo, August 5th, 6th, 2017. So it shows a picture of Donkey Kong and Frogger. It also had a picture of a Cabbage Patch doll. They seem to be promoting a CoCo guest, a very attractive young lady named Sophie Reynolds. I have no idea who she is. I did look her up, and she seemed to come up as some sort of gamer girl, whatever exactly that means. So, if you know who Sophie Reynolds is and you want to meet her, then you need to get out to the CoCo Expo coming up this year in Edison, New Jersey, and of course that again is August 5th and 6th of 2017. It's not this year, but next year, I guess.
I think you just flogged the event now. There's going to be a ton of people there, and you say gamer girl.
Yeah, maybe so. She is cute. She kind of looks like I forget the name, but from that old what was it, TV show where Save the Cheerleader, Save the World? She kind of looks like that cheerleader. So
Okay.
Anyway, oh god, Just can't seem to quit running my mouth today. But anyway,
Dig that hole deeper. Yeah.
exactly. All right. Well, one last item on the announcements. Again, we've been mentioning we have some promos out there for promoting CoCo Fest 2017. These are audio promos that Mr. Rowan produced. I've got them available for download if you have an outlet for them, such as another podcast that's retro computing themed or whatever. You are free to use them. Please download them, promote the events for us. Obviously, don't modify them. At least don't modify them in ways that change the message. I guess if you need to cut a second or two out of them here or there, that would probably be okay. But anyway, they're out there. Links in the show notes. Feel free to download them and run them on your podcast. That's all the announcements. You guys have anything? All right, sources say no. So we'll take another little break and be back with some news.
P Clear Records is proud to bring you newly discovered CoCo Christmas hits from the Damp Basement archives. Here is just a sample.
I'm dreaming of a white cocoa. So happy to be on my CoCo 3, typing in a basic program. Buy yourself a multi-pack this Christmas. All I want for Christmas is a CoCo 3, a CoCo 3, a CoCo 3. CoCo sitting with a multi-pack.
These songs and two more were discovered on molded cassettes. Originally recorded on a CCR-81 cassette recorder, these songs have been copied directly to a CCR-83 and are now available to the public on cassette for just $8.99. That's right, just $8.99. Order now to make your CoCo Christmas complete. To get your cassette of CoCo Christmas, send $8.99 by check or money order to P Clear Records, CoCo Christmas Offer 3Z9, Elm Tree, Ontario, Canada.
Now we're back with some news. All right, well, our first news item comes from the fellow named Craig Stewart. You guys know Craig?
No.
Never heard of him.
Oh, wait, I'm getting audio from one of mine. Oh, there we go. I was kidding. I brought up the MM1 promotional video in the background, and I was hearing the music.
I thought that sounded familiar.
Nice ambient music.
All right, we'll get to that in a moment. So Craig Stewart posts to the Color Computer Group. It says CoCo spotting. He's referring to I saw a CoCo here or there, kind of like when people do train spotting, I guess. Train at a certain time, whatever. Anyway, he says, seems I saw a couple of CoCos in the new film, lo and behold, about the history of the internet, or are they TDP 100s or something else? And he had posted a couple of pictures. They look like CoCos to me. I suppose they might be videotex terminals. The biggest question for me was, what's lo and behold? Had you guys heard of lo and behold?
No.
I had not.
No, me neither. So I put a link farther down in the show notes. There's a film by Werner Herzog. I don't know anything about Werner Herzog, but apparently he's a filmmaker of some renown. Maybe as famous as
he cranks
Michael
out the documentaries.
Moore. Yeah, so this is some version of Michael Moore from Germany, I guess, right? That could be completely unfair. I apologize to Mr. Herzog or any of his fans or whatever, or to Michael Moore. Who knows? I apologize to everyone.
You're absolved.
Anyway, yeah. So lo and behold, Reveries of the Connected World is a film by Werner Herzog, and it appears to be, at least on the surface, a kind of history of the internet, and maybe a little deeper than that. It's maybe a commentary on the influence on the internet has and that sort of thing. I don't know. I haven't watched the film. Kind of saw some of the trailer. I'm making some interpretations here, but Anyway, so there, if you may want to look that one up. I think you could buy it like through Amazon or something, maybe. Maybe you can get it through Netflix. Eventually, probably you can be able to get through Netflix at some point. So if you're listening in this episode, in 2025 or whenever you might get to it, you might go check out, see if you can find Lo and Behold, and watch the film. If you're, interested in old computers, you might be interested in old internet, right? Anyway, so back up. Apparently, in Lo and Behold, there's some reference. There's a few pictures of CoCos. They must not go into a lot of detail, or else Craig wouldn't have to be guessing as to whether they were CoCos or not. But anyway, it shows they were there. The CoCo's been downloading data from the internet, for quite a while. So perhaps not a surprise, but we were there.
That's a good catch by Craig.
Yeah, exactly. So Hackaday, if you're not familiar with Hackaday, it's a website that it's kind of expanded over time. It definitely it started out as just a website that would every day promote somebody's hack. Somebody would post, people would post whatever they had done that involving technology, computers, or whatever. And if they thought you'd done a good job, they'd put it out there, and you get the hack of the day, right? And over time, it's evolved a little bit, but that's still sort of the basic notion is cool hacks on technology or whatever. And they have a sort of a soft spot for retro stuff in general. And so you'll see a lot of stuff on Hackaday that has to do with retro computing one way or another. So anyway, they recently did this article, the basic issue with retro computers. There's talks a bit about using BASIC on old computers. And just sort of in general talks about retro computing. I read the article, but I don't have it fresh in my mind at the moment. But the main point is there is some attention from Hackaday for retro computers. None of this is actually CoCo stuff, but it's sort of related in the retro sort of way. So you may want to check it out and at least keep Hackaday on your radar for, interesting stuff in the future. You guys like Hackaday?
I do. That's an interesting website.
Yeah, that was a good little article too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've got some Hackaday stickers somewhere. I should plaster them over some laptops or something.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, I've gotten a couple of projects listed on Hackaday, but not in a while though. They changed hands or something. I'm not sure what the process is now. I'm not sure if it's any easier or harder, but whatever. Still a cool site, so check it out.
You have to look for Sophie Reynolds articles out there.
Yes, I'm sure that's the main attraction there. Save Sophie, save the world. All right, so moving on to it's a reasonably modern news story in terms of computer stuff, but it harkens back to a retro past. And there's a couple of these out this month, but I just picked one. But Microsoft replaces with PowerShell a new Windows 10 build. And so CMD, it's kind of funny because CMD actually is already a replacement for the original command.com, which was the DOS command prompt. CMD.exe, an OS2 heritage. But it came in Windows NT, but basically has the same kind of interface as the old command.com in terms of, limited shell scripting and or batch file scripting is basically what it is, and basic command execution, and that's about it. And so several years ago now, Microsoft implemented something that they call PowerShell, which I've never really used much. To me, it kind of reminded me of almost like a full-blown programming language, almost like Python or something, but different. But anyway, it was sort of a response to the notion that Unix and Linux in particular, but other Unix-style operating systems as well, had more power at the command line, and therefore, if you're running a server on the internet somewhere, you mostly log into it and run from the command line, and be able to do powerful things from the command line. And so that was seen as a strength for Unix-style systems versus Windows. And so they brought out PowerShell to kind of address that weakness. Anyway, it looks like now PowerShell is going to be the default command shell for Windows 10, although it sounds like you can still teach it, at least for the time being, to launch the older cmd.exe for a while. Who knows? Maybe by Windows 15 or something, you won't have that at all. Who knows? But anyway, I just included that as an item might be of interest to our retro-themed listeners. Bound to be some old DOS users in the crowd, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Part of the past that's getting taken away.
Yeah, probably for the better, but still, it's something a lot of people are used to, right?
Yeah. Most people are thinking, what took you so long?
Yeah, well, that's probably true, too. All right. Well, moving on. We have a post to the Fusix Devel, or Fusix Fusix from a fellow named Neil Crook. That name seems really familiar to me, but I'm not really sure I know that much about Neil. Maybe that should be a project to research. But Neil posts about how he's got so he's got a piece of the virtual machine or whatever that's needed for using BCPL, which is a programming language, but running it under Fusix. So you can write programs in BCPL under Fusix, compile them, and then be able to execute them on the 6809. The code itself from the compiler is not 6809 code. It's for this virtual machine, but you have the virtual machine that can run. So it's kind of like the runtime environment in some sense is similar to the way Basic 09 works on OS 9. It's just that the language, instead of being Basic or Basic 09, it's BCPL. Why is that interesting? Well, BCPL is credited as being kind of the predecessor or progenitor of the C programming language, which of course not only was the implementation language for Unix, but also has become a sort of the default systems programming language, well, really of the whole world, although there's always been a contingent of computer scientists who are desperately flinging poo at C because it doesn't have their preferred form of memory or whatever built into the language. Basically no memory management at all built into the language. Whatever its shortcomings, C has proven itself to be an effective tool for decades of developing computer system software, operating systems, embedded systems, that sort of thing. Anyway, I'm not going to spend too much time defending C. C can defend itself. But if you're interested in C, or if you're interested in what came before C, there's this language called BCPL. And if you want to run it, one option is to get Fusix up on your CoCo and run BCPL there. Just as a side note, it turns out that there's more than a little interest in BCPL out there in the world. And actually, if you look around, you can find some links where you can get a BCPL compiler that will run on your PC, and you can write BCPL code on your PC. But this is a CoCo podcast, so we're not telling you about that stuff. Anyway, there's actually a book on the implementation of BCPL. You can buy them used off Amazon, but very affordably. I just did that. Hadn't come in yet. Anyway.
That impressive library over there.
Yeah. Well, so, I was poking a little fun at people's irrational interest in Forth and Lisp, and so perhaps I have an irrational interest in BCPL. We'll see how that turns out once I get my book. All right. Okay, moving on. So this post is from Carlos Camacho, and he's a little bit of a newbie to our group. I remember adding him to the Facebook group not that long ago. But he's been pretty active since he's been added, so I'm not sure, if he just if he's truly new to the color computer, or maybe he was already an active color computer guy that just wasn't in the Facebook group or whatever. Anyway, I've seen plenty of activity from him. Pretty cool stuff. He posts here that he's looking at Ed Snyder's products, including the 6847. That's the VDG. External character ROM board. And so what that is a way that you can put a ROM in that changes the fonts that are used in text mode on your CoCo 1 or 2 or 3. Oh, not 3. Your CoCo 1 or 2, or Dragon for that matter, or basically anything that uses 6847, I guess. So he puts together, connects a couple of dots for himself. I think several of us have hit, and then gets excited, but I don't know if he's gotten to the point where he realizes the limitations. But so he says, I saw the white text on black fonts, and I thought, why not make text-based sprites? And so the notion is that you could use, either the external character ROM or some variation of that kind of design, and be able to have single characters that, rather than look like letters and numbers, they look like frogs and demons or whatever, and you could use them as tiles or character sprites or however you wanted to call them, but much in the way that some arcade hardware or some other retro computing hardware works on its graphics. And it's not a bad idea. The problem being that you have no control really over the colors, or at least very, very little control. So, you basically have either the dark green on light green or light green on dark green, or you can put it to where it's the, reddish orange or orangish red, whatever, on orange, or orange on the orangish red. And it's that way for every. You can't even differentiate it per sprite. It's that way for every sprite you're using. So at first it sounds kind of useful, and it can be, and it kind of depends on your actual application. But it's not quite as useful as it sounds. So anyway, I saw Carlos kind of hit this realization, and I thought, I've been there, and it took me a while to figure out that maybe it's not quite as useful as it seems at first. And I've seen other people hit that too. So I thought it was worth mentioning and discussing a little bit here. Might could be a tech segment, I guess. But
yeah, it's interesting. I understand what you're saying, because the CoCo 2 is kind of, and the CoCo 1 are kind of limited by that 6847. You could, even if you probably have more flexibility doing it through software than, I don't know if there's any big key advantage to doing it through hardware. It's kind of a cool project. I have done similar things under OS 9, in basic 09, but there you on OS 9 level 2, you've got fonts, of course, that you can load in, and I've created fonts with different characters along the way, and there you've got color control and stuff. So
sure. Well, like I say, if it's the colors is the biggest thing. If you can somehow live with the colors, you can certainly make the graphics move around very easily with a lot less manipulation performance theoretically, but your colors are going to look terrible. So it's a shame that there's not some way to build that in or to fix that design, but or retrofit on top of it, but there just isn't. And that's the frustrating part of the color computer. The color graphics chip for the color computer was just so not so good. Kind of the albatross around our necks. It's kind of ironic, I guess. But
yeah, it's both endearing and frustrating.
To defend the CoCo, a lot of machines at that time didn't have very good color sets either.
It's true. It's just ours is probably worse than most of the others.
Be a little optimistic there.
Yeah. Not quite as bad as it seems, but still not a plus point either. Oh well. Anyway, moving on from that little bit of ignominy or whatever. Next announcement comes from Gary Becker. Of course, Gary Becker is the force behind the CoCo 3 FPGA project. He sent an announcement to that group's Yahoo group. I just uploaded CoCo 3 FPGA version 4.1. This is a full release version, including all the source. See the included README file, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the point is, if you're following CoCo 3 FPGA, there's a new release. Each new release tends to bring some minor features, sometimes bring some new minor problems. But you may want to check it out, see if see if it does something better for you. Do you guys have the hardware for CoCo 3 FPGA?
No, I don't.
The DE1 board?
No, I don't either.
Yeah, I got one about a year ago. I haven't used it much, but I did get it up and loading and running. And then it's like, okay, well, that's cool. And I got a dozen other CoCo projects to get to, so
Yeah.
Let's go do something else. But all right, well, let's move on. All right, so this one is kind of interesting. I'll have the link for the MM1 promotional video. This came from Boise Pete. And I'm sure you guys know what the MM1 is. I don't know if our listeners, if all of them do. Of course, the MM1 was a machine designed kind of as an unofficial follow-up to the CoCo 3 or an unofficial successor to the CoCo 3. It was an OS 9 68000 machine that kind of came out of the CoCo community. I don't know. It's an interesting machine in some ways from a historical perspective. Well, anyway, I'm not going to talk a lot about the MM1, but the video is kind of neat. It's kind of a period piece. Got to be from the early 90s. Kind of just tells about where they were trying to position the MM1 and how they thought it was working. Boise posted. You may want to check out some of his other videos. He posted a few others in the same time frame that are kind of from the same time period. Like I said, you may want to check out some of his other YouTube videos. So if you go through the link there, you can see Boise's channel and check them out. Did you guys check out this video?
Yeah, I did, and I really enjoyed that video, and it was hilarious. I get a kick out of watching videos from the early '90s. And,
yeah, good video, and nothing makes you feel old more than watching these.
I don't want to give any spoilers.
It's pretty funny.
But don't want to give any spoilers away, but there's some pretty funny moments in that video. At least I thought there was.
Yeah.
People off guard.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right, well, everybody check those out. Yeah, I think people will enjoy seeing those. Next link comes from Alan Huffman. Not a lot of story here, but he shares it says when Bill Gates signed a contract with Tandy, and so he's got an image of some sort of document that's got a signature from, I can't make it out, but somebody representing Radio Shack and or Tandy Corporation, and then signature from a William H. Gates, president of Microsoft. I don't know. It's kind of cool to see it. I think we all already knew that somebody from Microsoft made a deal with somebody from Tandy, so I'm not sure if that advances the ball much on our knowledge of the past, but still interesting to see. What do you think?
Just another chunk of CoCo history.
Yeah. I need to see that.
All right.
It goes to show that Microsoft had their hand in everything. What the heck?
Sorry, I just opened a bunch of links to Jim Gary videos.
I mean, you're booting up a video game.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, yeah. Okay, so our next 5 links all come from Jim Gary. So Jim has had a busy month porting basic programs to the MC10. I think these are all MC10 games. Anyway, so he's got, like I said, the names of the games. He's got Cavern 2160, He's got the port of a Apple Bowling Champ. He's got a game called Jetpack. That's the name of a well-known game from the era. I assume that's he's got something in basic here. I'm not sure if it'll look a lot like Jetpack, but it'll be something to play for sure. He's got something called Escape from Colditz. Don't know a lot about that game. Looks like a lot of basic involved, as all of Jim's games do. And then he's got one called Robot Nim. Again, it's kind of a neat looking game. If you're looking for some extra games to play on your MC10, as usual, I would say check out what Jim's got and give them a try. Looks like a lot of cool stuff there. I don't know, you guys have a chance to try any of these games on your MC10?
I haven't yet.
You can't keep up. I say it every month. Jim's a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. He produces a lot of stuff. He's had a busy month, for sure.
And he definitely must be the master at porting basic programs. He's got to be.
Well, he probably could write a book on this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All we can say is keep them coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, well, moving on. We've got with the earlier Hackaday links, but we've got 3 more Hackaday links. I don't think any of them are really CoCo per se, but one is it's let's see, ZX81 connects to the network. So that's the old the Timex Sinclair machine. Somebody's wires that up to the kind of ubiquitous ESP8266. If you're into maker style projects, so you probably have heard about that chip already, but it's basically a smart wireless style device that a lot of people use for hooking up for kind of Internet of Things style projects. In this case, the thing is loading code from an FTP server, and the thing is a ZX81, or it's a Brazilian ZX81 clone of the TK85. Not a lot of news here. Could be a lot of people might find this project interesting, so I included it. So in case you're bored after having eaten your Christmas feast, you go check out Hackaday and see what they're doing on this ZX81, or ZX81 for the Canadians. Let's see, moving on to the next link. It's the 1980s way. I think some of the people that are involved with the VCF East may have been involved with this project. Yeah, so Jeffrey Brace and even Evan Koblenz. Anyway, basically, this is just where some people have built some simple robots to interface to their retro computers, basically out of Lego stuff. One of which is using the DACTA logo interface for the Apple II. But the notion being that you can, if you're into building robots and stuff, you can use some pretty simple stuff. You don't have to have a brand new top of the line whatever to build them. You can build it out of simpler. You can still make stuff that works and moves around just like you could back in the day. And again, if you want to see what some people have done, here's this Hackaday link, and you can go check it out. All right, well, moving on. This one is not really retro at all, except for maybe they're inspired by the controller. But the point I've included it is because it's a project where somebody's hacked a SNES controller and a Wiimote to where it's basically blended them together. The reason why I thought it was interesting was because the plastic looks professionally done, or at least close to it. A lot of the projects people want to do on retro computing end up with with something that has kind of a cool circuit, but they're not really sure how to fix it up. They just do the equivalent of putting it in a cardboard box or something. Working with plastics these days is not really that hard. You just have to learn a bit about it. So this is kind of here, look and see what these guys did, and maybe you'll find the motivation to learn a little bit of plastic forming for yourself for your own projects. What do you think, Neil? You going to build some of your own plastic enclosures from resin?
I was checking it out. It definitely looks interesting. It reminded me of what you were doing with those cartridges a few years ago.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, it's a little bit of filler for the news section, but I think it's worth reading. Okay, well, so the next two items come from Nick Morentis. So the first one is again, we're back to the Popstar Pilot blog, which I thought we were already at the end with chapter 30 to 35. So having shipped everything out, he basically takes some time to do a little bit of a retrospective. So that's fair. And so he kind of summarizes the project and talks about some cool stuff and that sort of stuff. And he puts a mission accomplished banner on it at the end. I don't know if that's supposed to be ironic or not, but anyway, it's probably really to be the last, I would imagine, on this blog, unless some truly huge new development comes up. But anyway, we've covered the Popstar Pilot blog a number of times over the past several months, and I guess we get to do it one last time. What do you guys think?
Well, I'd like to add in there that I finally got my copy, so it's in time for Christmas.
Yeah.
Came in.
Oh, that's good.
Very cool. Well, since we're talking about Nick posted up on the Facebook group where he's looking for what at least he says is a rare CoCo problem. A rare CoCo program. It may be a problem if you're trying to use it. Who knows? Many of them were. But, the problem is called Bassembler. I don't know. It's assembler with a B on the front. And so he's got an ad clipping that he's posted. Says the Bassembler is a unique macro assembler, lets you intermix assembly language and BASIC in the same program. You literally have one line assembly and the next line BASIC, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, I agree. It sounds like a cool program. But you know what it sounds like to me? I think I covered this 2 or 3 episodes back when I said that I had acquired a copy of the Demon cartridge for the Dragon. And that basically does exactly what's being described there. Is it lets you go into your BASIC source code and add a few lines here and there, and you basically put your assembly code into the same file as your BASIC, and then the two programs can interoperate from there. So I agree. It sounds like a cool idea, and I don't know if this is going to look a lot like that, or it might be that it looks a bit different. Looks like it probably comes from a different person or a different group. So anyway, if you have this Bassembler, help us out, help Nick out, help him find it, and then let the rest of us know too. And maybe we can all play with that. Sounds kind of cool.
It does.
Yeah, another thing to track down. That's great.
Yeah. Well, let's moving on. The next two aren't really related, except they're both from two guys named Chris. So, I'm sorry, getting a little loopy here. Let's see. The first one is from Chris Martin, and he posts up a couple of pictures. And his comment is that Simon Jonason can probably bring these images to life on a TRS-80 CoCo 2. These are mock-ups of a novel graphics mode that Simon thought up that could use any one of SG4, P mode or 2 color modes with 8 mode changes per scan line. Yeah, so I've seen some of these pictures before. I think there may be something unique going on here. I think if you check out some of my previous blogging, that the 8 changes per scan line is something that I kind of came up with in my VDG Tricks blog in the past. Simon's maybe extended that, and he might be choosing maybe from a different set of modes now. Anyway, it's cool. It's cool to be able to get some extended graphics output from the CoCo. You have to kind of chase the beam, as it were, sort of inspired by how you had to program for the Atari 2600, where you actually have to switch modes in time with the signal going to the television. But you can do some pretty cool stuff, and it's certainly a lot more attractive, in my opinion, than the normal limited pallets, shall we say, of the 6847. So yeah. Anyway, did you guys take a look at these pictures?
Yeah,
I
and
did.
I saw them out there on Facebook, and yeah, neat. That'd be cool to see those on CoCo too.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those pictures were kind of a tease, because they were taken from other video games.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks kind of strange to see Mega Man on the CoCo too.
Yeah. Well, Mega Man might be cool. Oh, anyway, moving on. I think we mentioned this project maybe last time that from Chris Pocher was working on a Android app that would let you directly load images from your Android phone out to your Dragon as a replacement for a cassette tape. And so this is, I think, in reference to that. He's saying for whatever reason he's having trouble uploading to the World of Dragon. That's sort of that's the Dragon owner's kind of central hub of stuff. But he says he's shared on his Google Drive that he's got an archive. It's not complete, but does have 750 plus titles so far. So there, if you sounds like he's making good progress on his archive, his Android archiving application there. So if you've got a Dragon and you'd like to check out 750 titles, Chris can help you out. It sounds like a pretty cool achievement, or at least a pretty cool packaging up of available software images for the Dragon. Like I said, I'm still hoping to see maybe somebody will do a version for the CoCo. I would imagine a lot of the codes could certainly be shared between the Dragon and CoCo Android apps, because mostly it's just image translation, format translation, and making noise out the speakers. Chris, could you know this tool at some point, Dragon specifically, or maybe a CoCo version? Either one would be cool. You guys try that out yet? Probably not, since not quite packaged ready for us yet, huh?
No, I got the Android phone, so I'm ready on that side.
We're close.
Well, there you go.
Hello, and welcome to Microprocessor. It's finished, so I thought I'd take you on a little tour of it.
All right. You're getting a little ahead there. All right, our next item comes from Guillaume. Is it Major or Mejor? Do you have any idea how that's pronounced? Is it just Major?
I think it's Major.
Guillaume Major? Okay. Well, Guillaume, if I mispronounce it, I'll let you know. Guillaume announces that a new version of CoCo SDC Explorer is available for download. New features now possible to mount/unmount selected disk on drive 1 by pressing Shift+1. Any file can be mounted regardless of the extension. Have you guys started using this SDC Explorer? It's only been out a couple of months now, I guess.
Yeah, I actually started playing with this newest version, and it's pretty cool. What I like to do is I've got a just one memory card that I have games on, so it's just kind of nice to be able to pop it in and just immediately go to a menu, select what you want, and run it. So pretty neat feature.
Sure. All right. Well, very cool. It's good to know that that's continuing to be in development, and it's a nice addition to the community there.
Yeah, it's really nice to see when people, add stuff and do different versions to their programs, the updates. I like to see that. I mean, a lot of commercial software you buy doesn't get updated, and these guys are dedicated, and this is pretty much freeware, and they're taking care of it.
Yep. Sometimes that's the best way to do it, huh? All right. Well, so the next item, we got a tour of the Mega Processor. That's from a fellow named James Newman, who I think is the inventor of the Mega Processor. And so we've got a video of him. He's got a processor he's built out of discrete components. So I guess it's at the Center for Computer History in Cambridge. But this is definitely a very large machine. He's got it on racks displayed around the room. In his video, he walks around them and shows you that, here's this part, here's that part. It's kind of neat. It's not any specific processor as far as I know, other than just itself. But it's kind of neat, kind of life scale of what these circuits are and how they connect together, and how big they can be when you insist on transistor in your hand. So I thought it was a pretty cool project, and so there for your viewing pleasure, check it out. All right, well, moving on, we've got a couple coming from Brett. Brett, of course, he's both our resident, or at least one of our resident physics experts, and also occasionally hear from him as our fourth fourth programming expert. These two links are basically about physics. The first link is Color Basic under physics. So basically, he's adapted the basic Color Basic 1.2, changed the console driver, and hit a few other bits and pieces here and there to make the Color Basic ROM run as a user space program under physics. Of course, physics is a sort of kernel for retro computers. And so there you go. If you do want to run physics, but you don't want to give up Color Basic, here's a way to still be able to run physics and use some of your Color Basic programs. Sounds like it's pretty early days, but it's kind of a neat project. I've kind of done a project that's in some ways similar to this, targeting the basic ROM to the Simon 6009. So I have some idea what's involved here. Either way, it's a cool project, and wish you lots of luck, Brett. Keep going with that and see what you can do. There also was a project like this back in the day where you could run Color Basic under OS 9, and that was called RSB, I think it was.
Yeah.
Radio Shack Basic. Anyway, usefulness is kind of depends on what you want to do with it, I think, but it can be a useful way to preserve some investment in programs that have been written for Color Basic, but you want to run them in a new environment. All right, well, cool. So moving on, the next announcement about physics from Brett comes out that now you can run physics on a CoCo 2, which you already could do to some extent because Tormod Bolden has a memory read to a CoCo 2 that could provide it to access up to 512K of RAM, I guess. But in this case, this is even somewhat simpler, where Alan Cox, who's kind of the main guy behind physics, has now got a version where you can put a lot of physics into a ROM cartridge and plug that in and boot it on a CoCo 2. So there you go. If if you've been dying to do physics but couldn't dedicate your CoCo 3 to it, now you can use a CoCo 2 for it. I would like to get
the way to do it,
but I haven't got there yet. How about you guys?
I haven't got there yet myself either, but I've been watching it all with interest. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Okay, next item, not CoCo at all, but should appeal to the aging geek in all of us, I guess. The headline: Steve Wozniak still brainstorms ways the Apple II could have been better. Nearly 40 years later, Steve Wozniak still brainstorms ways the Apple II could have been better. Wozniak, maybe not quite as well known as Steve Jobs, but for those who do know, Steve Wozniak was sort of the engineering muscle behind the early days at Apple, and the true designer of the Apple II, even the Apple I. Anyway, the article talks a bit about how Woz, as he's affectionately known, awoke one night in Quito, Ecuador, and came up with a way to save a chip or two from the Apple II, and a trivial way to have the two grays of the Apple II be different, which they kind of come in one of the video modes of the Apple II. You end up with two grays, and they basically look the same, but I guess there's a way he could have made them look more different. Anyway, 30 years too late, as he says. But
well, it's never too late.
I don't know. Just
I was going to say, it's never too late.
You could do it now,
That's
too.
a good project idea right there. Maybe the Woz could re-release something.
Yeah, that might be cool. So anyway, I guess I threw that in there just as, I think a lot of us have at times had projects that took over our lives, and maybe were hard to let go. Most of us don't have the financial success behind the projects that Mr. Wozniak had, but it's nice to know that even the rich geeks have it happen to them too. Well, moving on, I've got a link to a Vectrix project. I don't know who this person is. They go by CoCo Vec, and it's KOKO Vec.
CoCo Vec?
Yeah.
That's a cool name if you think about it.
Yeah. So I don't know if that KOKO is supposed to hook back to the COCO CoCo like we like or not. But maybe it is. The Vectrix, of course, has a certain link to the CoCo because they both have the 6809 processor.
Yeah.
There's another similarity between the Vectrix and the CoCo in that they both have analog joysticks. They're slightly different in terms of how the power supplies are handled, for example. But not only they're analog joysticks, but they're analog joysticks that basically work as voltage dividers. Which is a little bit different from the analog joysticks that you'd use on a PC or an Apple II. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned that similarity, this video shows somebody using what's called the Vectrix PS2 adapter, and it's like, well, PS2, well, no. At first, I thought they meant like the keyboard or mouse, right? But no, this is PS2 as in PlayStation 2. So as in the Sony PlayStation. And so they've got, particularly they're trying to use it with a certain game called Robot Arena, which I don't know a lot about, but I guess it's a game that can benefit from a lot of controller input. And so what they're showing is a PlayStation 2 controller, which of course has 2 thumbsticks and then has a set of 4 buttons at your thumb on the left and another set of 4 buttons at your thumb on the right. And so if you think about it, the 2 joysticks, they're analog sticks on the PS2. So whatever you're doing, you can convert them similarly and plug them into the 2 joystick ports on a CoCo, and you could have those 2 joystick inputs. And then if you use a technique similar to what we were using on the Sega Genesis adapters, at least on the CoCo 3, you could have 4 button inputs on each of the 2 joystick ports. And so theoretically, whatever this person is doing to hook this PlayStation 2 controller up to the Vectrix, you could take essentially the same kind of fundamental circuits and mix it in with what we've done to support the 4-button Genesis controllers, and you could have a PlayStation 2 interface to a CoCo 3. And of course, you need a game that could take advantage of all that controller input to make that useful, but it's within the realm of possibility. So I don't know if that's exciting to you guys. I don't know if it's exciting to our listeners, but it was kind of exciting to me. I'm not really sure what kind of game would benefit from that, but I would love to hear people's ideas. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I checked that out. Anything to do with joysticks definitely gets my interest on the CoCo. So.
I don't have a Vectrix, but that sounds like it'd be a cool addition.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, the Vectrix is just sort of a stand-in for the CoCo in this sense. We could do something. Theoretically, we could have the PlayStation 2 adapter plugged into the CoCo. Mm-hmm. I'm not much of a double thumb gamer, so I'm not sure what games we would have that would make use of that. But it looks to me like that's a controller that we could enable on the CoCo, at least on the CoCo 3. We just would need software to make good use of it. Which is always the case, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the other nice thing is that PS2 joystick that's very available. I mean, you can get them pretty much anywhere.
Yep. Nice
to have access to something if you're making a new project.
All right. Well, the next item comes from Chris Osborne, and he's also someone who goes by Foztex on Twitter and kind of in general in the retro community. And I'm not sure what sparked this desire, but he declared a CoCo weekend with a high score competition. So a couple of weeks ago now. But he basically said, here, post your high scores on the, who will give out final decals. And so he got some people to participate, and they were posting on the list and trying to get the decals, I guess. He's got a little website that shows some of the results, and there were a number of participants. Did you guys participate in any of this?
No, I was actually bummed because when I found out about it, it was kind of halfway through, and I was just unfortunately swamped with work. Like I seriously had no time, and I wanted to do Farfall. I wanted to get a score going on Farfall and submit that. Unfortunately,
I did Farfall. There was a Donkey Kong remix in there.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris City.
There was a Farfall in
Clouds and Balloons. No.
Oh, okay.
No Farfall.
Oh, okay. Those decal stickers were pretty cool, though. They look really nice.
Yeah, they look nice. It's just cool to see somebody, kind of gin up some excitement in the community. Yeah, and cool to see some other people play it along. So I thought that was nice.
Yeah, it's good they're going to have
cool.
another one. It's good way for people to get involved and participate.
Yeah, have they announced the next one when they're going to do that? I missed the announcement.
I don't think so. I think he just said he's going to do it again. But
well, we got to be on the lookout. I don't want to miss this one.
All right. Well, moving on. Got a new website from Diego Brizo, and basically he's created a website for advertising currently available hardware and software. And he has services as well, but I don't think anybody's listed under services. But currently available wares for the CoCo, and he wants to have that available so that I guess just as a central site, so that people who miss the announcement of when something's going to be, when something comes available or whatever, they have a central location to kind of make that information available as long as the items are still available for sale or whatever. So, what do you guys think of this CoCoWare site?
Well, I think it's a good idea. I've got about 3 things I need to send to Diego to get listed. Yeah. There was some discussion of putting used items out there. I think that always just falls apart. I think it would be just good to have this stuff is for sale. That's new products.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's the difference here. I guess it's all new stuff. So it's not just it's not a replacement for eBay. It's more like a replacement for Amazon.
Yeah.
So.
And I could definitely see it filling a need in the community, especially people that are just joining, and it can take you a while to find out where all these different resellers are.
It's nice to have one central location for that.
Well, moving on. Yeah, so this is another announcement from Guillaume Major. I guess I didn't get them all slid together like I thought I did. Anyway, so he's done this in the past where he's taken AGI games and made them available on the CoCo 3 using, I guess the AGI interpreter from King's Quest or whatever. Anyway, so for those who don't know, AGI, what does that stand for? Adventure Game Interpreter. And so what this was is basically a game engine created by Sierra Online, which was a company back in the day that created a lot of adventure games, particularly graphical, or at least partially graphical adventures. So basically, these games were basically just data files paired with a program, and the program basically stayed the same across a collection of data files, and so the data files were actually what implemented the games. And so he's used this technique in the past to make some retro Sierra games available on the CoCo 3 that were never actually released on the CoCo 3. And so now, and maybe he's done this before with some fan-made games, so people can go out and make AGI games using tools that are available on the internet. So you can write an original game and implement it in AGI and play it using an AGI interpreter on a retro computer, and then in this case the CoCo 3. And so he's got one. He says, I ported another AGI fan-made adventure game to the CoCo 3. It was developed in 2001 is inspired by the Space Quest series and has good story and graphics. Although Steve never finished it, his game is quite large and offers a myriad of puzzles to keep you busy for several hours. I'd say it's about 75% complete. Anyway, so it's cool. It's another game available on the CoCo 3. I just think it's cool as a hack that even though it's sort of supposed to work, that doesn't mean it will. So it's cool that somebody's figured out the details of taking an AGI, data file and getting it running on the AGI interpreter from that's available on the CoCo.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then people are playing it because there's lots of traffic out there. People, asking about how to get through different levels and stuff. So yeah, very fun.
Yeah, very cool. So thanks, Guillaume, for making that available to us. Very cool. All right. One more not quite CoCo related, but still retro oriented announcement. This sort of pairs with the original announcement about how Microsoft CMD.exe from Windows 10. On the other end of the spectrum, subject or title of this piece is FOSS DOS for 21st century hardware. So FOSS means free or open source software. DOS means, DOS or disk operating system for 21st century hardware. And basically this is just saying that the FreeDOS project is alive and kicking and is scheduled for a Christmas Day release for FreeDOS 1.2, I guess. And so FreeDOS is in the way that Linux is a free operating system that you can download and run a Unix-like operating system on your computer at home. FreeDOS is similarly a free operating system that you can download and run on your computer at home, but in this case, instead of being a Unix-like system, it is a system very much like DOS or MS-DOS from the past. Probably if you're like me, the first time I heard of it is, well, why would you want that? But it can be kind of useful, particularly if you want to run old DOS software. There are a number of pieces of software out there that are written for, for a while it was the easiest way to do a BIOS update, for example, was you could boot up FreeDOS and run your DOS-based BIOS update software. Particularly if you didn't have DOS installed on your machine at all. But I don't know. At this point, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what the good reason is in 2016 or 2017 to have DOS on your PC. But some people still definitely seem to think there are some good reasons, and I assume some of those are people who want to run old DOS games. Maybe there's some other, more serious reasons, shall we say.
Well, I know there's probably some old hardware you could probably talk to. That's true. DOS. There's some basic programs. And
I you do use FreeDOS on my PC that holds my EEPROM programmer. So
that was my first thought right off the bat. Yeah, it was EEPROM programmers.
Yes,
I knew I had some old software that only run under DOS for doing some relay control. So it'd be cool to be able to use the same software.
Yeah, that's great. And then it runs on new hardware of today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. It's nice to know that stuff is out there for people that need it. And I might be somebody who needs it. So so it's good to know it's out there for me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in it myself. I'm going to hide as I say this, but I'm kind of a DOS fan. That's kind of neat to see.
Yeah, it is neat to see. There's a lot of stuff that was written for bidirectional parallel port, and if that supports it on new hardware, then it will keep living. That's great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. All right. Well, moving on, our final two items of news, both come from Darren Atkinson, and both are about the SDC DOS for the CoCo SDC. And so the first one came in December 2nd, says an updated SDC DOS version 1.3 is available. New features in this version: support for running an autoexec.base program at system startup. Hold down the shift key to suppress it. A new EXP command which can be used to quickly mount and run a program like the SDC Explorer. Let's see. Well, write mem location or command will now write to the FEOO to FEFF locations in the flashbanks when running on a CoCo 3. Likewise, copy mem command now reads from flash for these locations on a CoCo 3. Cool. Anyway, links in the show notes. You can check out the whole announcement. So that sounds like good news, right? And then the next announcement from Darren is a week later on December 9th. Another update to SDC DOS is available now, version 1.4. No new features since 1.3. Fixed a couple of bugs that were reported. If you've installed version 1.3 and used Disk Edtasm or Robert Galt's Edtasm 6309, then you'll definitely want to update to 1.4. So there you go. If you're an SDC, a CoCo SDC user, probably want to update your SDC DOS. 1.3 has some cool features. Brought with it a couple of bugs, as features sometimes do, so you probably want to go on straight on to 1.4.
Yeah, I got to get mine flashed over.
Yeah, you got the 1.4 update going.
Yeah, that's how I got my games, my SDC Explorer starting automatically when I power it up. It's a neat feature. Thanks, Darren.
Cool. Very cool. The CoCo SDC is one of the most exciting developments in the CoCo community over the past couple of years, and it's cool to think that it's still getting some new features, new attention. All right. Well, that's all the news that we've got for this month. So we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back in a moment with some feedback.
The International Color Computer Weather Service has issued the following alert for Earth's northern hemisphere, above approximately 26 degrees north latitude. Effective until 8 p.m. May 1, 2017. Cooler temperatures combined with fewer daylight hours have created conditions conducive to indoor activity. Seasonal affective disorder is a type of depression that typically occurs each year during fall and winter. To combat these and other possible effects, hibernate indoors and use a TRS-80 color computer, MC10, Dragon, or similar color computer, as frequently as possible. Exposure to colors such as green, magenta, buff, cyan, and orange have been shown to offer relief from the effects of seasonal affective disorder. Owners of color computers should go to a basement or interior room in your home or business where you keep color computer equipment. Seek shelter now. Once in place, use your color computer to program, play games, or otherwise pursue creative activities. You may enhance your experience by reading computer publications and manuals, listening to vintage computing podcasts, soldering electronic parts to printed circuit boards, employing oscilloscopes, voltmeters, logic analyzers, and other tools. Interacting with other color computer owners can also be useful in combating seasonal affective disorder. Planning and creating projects or demonstrations to exhibit at CoCo Fest and Tandy Assembly is also strongly recommended. The International Color Computer Weather Service has issued this alert.
All right, now it's time for some feedback. We have feedback from, we got 3 items of feedback this time. It's from friend of the show, shall we say, John Mark Mobley. John Mark lets us know that the Oregon Trail board game is now in stock at Target. Many retro computing aficionados will be familiar with Oregon Trail, which I think Oregon Trail was primarily an Apple II game and maybe on the PC. I don't think there was an Oregon Trail for the CoCo, was there?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah, I don't think so. But anyway, it's available. So the Oregon Trail is definitely a well-known game for a certain people of a certain age, shall we say. You know, the expression "you've died of dysentery" comes from the Oregon Trail. And so anyway, there's apparently a board game version of it, and it's available at Target. The price I'm not sure of. I think John had said that he had seen it at like $10. I think when I looked it up, it was $12. I don't know the exact price. You'll have to figure out for yourself. But if playing the Oregon Trail as a board game appeals to you, you may want to go and check out what Target has to offer.
And you can pick up Robot Turtles while you're at it.
Well, there you go, Robot Turtles. This one is from L. Curtis Boyle. Is referring to my tech segment from last month. I talked about basically playing around with the various being able to kind of abuse them a little bit to draw draw in one mode and display in another and get near weird effects that way. So he says in the text segment, you probably should have also mentioned the pcopy command, which sure, I mean, a pcopy is a useful command, and it's an optimized way of copying data around, I think, probably faster things that you might do, but it's sort of in the same vein of, draw in one place and then use pcopy to scoop up the data and then be able to display it somewhere else. And again, if you draw it one way and pcopy it and then switch modes and pcopy it back out to somewhere else, you probably get some strange effects there as well. So if any of that basic graphics programming stuff appealed to you from last month's tech segment, then you probably want to make sure you have pcopy in your arsenal of commands. All right, so one more. This one comes from Kevin Braun. It's really directed to me, I guess. So Farfall, what is needed to play it? Do we really not cover Farfall enough?
Don't ask me that.
It's not. Anyway, Farfall, of course, plays on a Color Computer 1 or 2. It does not operate on a Color Computer 3. That frustrates some people to no end. That was actually kind of intentional on my part, trying to keep a little extra value in the CoCos 1 and 2, and also to reach out to the Dragon community. Anyway, people ask if I ever do a CoCo 3 version of Farfall. Say maybe I would. At this point, I think probably not. I did do an Apple II version, but that probably doesn't solve anything for anyone. Anyway, so Kevin, like I said, once you have the CoCo 1 or 2, it is the cartridge. Those are available from me. I've been asking $40 so far, selling them at a rate I'm comfortable with. So price drop may come eventually, but I'm not quite ready to do it. You may want to watch eBay just in case I decide to put them there. But again, I haven't done that yet either.
If I could throw my 2 cents in, Kevin, it is definitely worth picking up a CoCo 1 or 2, just even for that game. Just for Farfall alone.
Neil is a fan, for sure. He may like it more than I do.
Neil even has the Apple version, so.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. That actually inspired me to get an Apple IIc, believe it or not. Was this for that game? I wanted to see what it was like.
Do you play the Apple version much?
Not as much as the CoCo 2 version.
No. Yeah, it's not as polished. It could use a little extra work, I think. But anyway, maybe someday there too. But honestly, I need a new game. I did have Xmas Rush, but probably want something even newer. Hopefully that's what the Christmas break will do for me. Give me a new game. Anyway, well, thanks for all the feedback, people. Obviously, we love getting feedback from you, positive, negative, indifferent. I don't know who would send indifferent feedback, but that would definitely be interesting to receive. Like, yeah, you guys are doing okay, I guess, whatever. Anyway, we do love to hear from you. Again, those are the email addresses we discussed earlier in the show, but basically feedback at cococrew.org will reach all of us, and we'd love to hear from you. All right, well, I think we're going to take another break, and we'll be back with a host discussion or the rest of our show.
The Radio Shack Battery Club Hour presents the CoCo Crew Christmas Podcast. Sponsored by Radio Shack, maker of world-famous computers, peripherals, and batteries. Starring John Linville, Neil Blanchard, and your humble announcer, Mike Rowan. So warm up those hot toddies and curl up next to the fire. It's time for the CoCo Crew Christmas Podcast.
I think there must be something wrong with me, Linus. I have a CoCo 3, but I'm not happy. I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel. I just don't understand computers, I guess. I like playing games and word processing and programming and all that, but I'm still not happy. I always end up feeling depressed. Charlie Brown, you're the only person I know who could take a wonderful thing like a color computer and turn it into a problem. Maybe Lucy's right. Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest.
Welcome back to our host discussion segment. We mentioned kind of offhand in our last episode, it kind of came out a discussion of repacks, and we sort of said, does anybody still do those? Or well, maybe we should discuss that. Maybe that'd be a good host discussion topic this month, because of our how imaginative we are. We decided to revisit that earlier topic. So I guess that's where we're at. Is we want to discuss the topic of, well, what is a repack? How do you do them? Why would you do them? And do they still serve a purpose? But before we get to do they still serve a purpose, or we should probably talk about what are they in the first place. So, who wants to take the lead? Mike, do you want to talk about repacks, what they are?
Oh, sure. A repack is, taking in our case, a color computer, and taking the motherboard out of its case and, placing it into a custom case, kind of like PC modding is these days with modern PCs. People have done the same thing with color computers. We've seen people put them in PC towers and Tandy 1000 cases. And I think the notion or the reason that people want to do that is to make it more convenient. You've got that big multi-pack hanging off the side, and people think, boy, it'd be nice just to have a tower or desktop, so all the disk drives and everything is all in one unit that I can just plug in, turn on and off. And there have been some neat ones we've seen. I've seen them in like old TRS-80 Model 3 cases, and but that's basically what a repack is. Yeah,
right. So I remember, like I said, when I first got into the hobby, which would have been the mid 90s, it was definitely a popular thing. Lots of people were doing repacks. Discussion on the list, how do you do this? What do you do about the multi-pack when you do a repack into a PC tower? How do you run the power supplies, all that sort of thing. Nowadays, and of course all of that stuff was about using the old baby AT style cases, which nowadays, if you want to even get one of those, you have to go to the same retro section of eBay to find the cases as you would to find the CoCo. But I wonder, you mentioned putting them like in a Tandy 1000 or Tandy 3000 or whatever case, or a Model 3 case. I wonder if that has more appeal just because of the retro nicheness of it. I don't know.
Well, now you're up against it's kind of sacrilege to hack another retro computer.
That's true.
To put a different one inside of it.
I was just going to say that.
True. Yeah. If you go to destroy one thing to do the other, it's probably not so good. But, what if you, I wonder if there's any value in putting one inside some other kind of box, a statue or a Care Bear or or an old who knows? I wonder if there's any kind of kitschy kind of thing to put them in that would be kind of fun, putting them in an aquarium case or something like that.
Well, a repack's always something I've wanted to do. In fact, I've actually gotten about halfway through a couple of repack projects and I was building a case from scratch, but I just was not going the way I wanted to, and I'd get distracted by other projects and stuff. But
Yeah. Now I could see that. That might be kind of cool. I remember when I went, my first fest was it was actually PinFest 2000, and there was a fellow there. Can't quite remember his name. It seemed like he had like a nom de guerre, shall we say, a nom de guerre of Grizzly or something like that. It's like Grizzly Enterprises or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And that guy had a case that he made out of clear acrylic that he kind of built the case up and bonded together with whatever you use to bond acrylic to itself. And that was pretty cool looking. And he had bent the acrylic in some ways and glued it in other places and whatever. That was a neat looking case.
I think I've seen pictures of that from PinFest on the web.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I could definitely see having a custom case, something that you built yourself, or something that was equally kind of unique or interesting. Beyond that, that's one thing that I've never quite understood on the, why you want to take something that's kind of interesting looking like a CoCo and stuff it into something that's boring looking like a beige box PC, especially since the cutouts and stuff aren't really correct for it. So you're always kind of in a compromised position for running your plugs and wires and that sort of thing. I guess it could be some convenience there. Like you say, it's probably easier to carry around your beige box PC than it is to carry around, the multi-pack under one arm and the CoCo under the other, and the CM8 balanced on top of your head or whatever.
Back in the day, these repacks were more common because, like a baby AT case, that was in. I mean, that was the cool thing, right? So if you had a CoCo, and all your friends had a 286 or 386, you wanted to kind of put it in that case. That's just my 2 cents, though. Maybe they're not as common.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking is the time that I associate most with the repacks is also the time that I would associate where there were still more, call them diehard or holdout, like productivity users, CoCo productivity users, where there were still holdouts,
right?
People that would still insist that the CoCo was the most productive thing for them, that was their best computer they could have. That's probably, if you really were trying to use the CoCo as your day-to-day computer, maybe that somehow made more sense to pack it up into the PC style case, have it all in a sort of convenient form factor.
It's just the evolution of things, because if you look at it, there's a lot of similarities between the TRS-80 Model 1 and the color computer as far as how it's expanded. And you got a floppy disk with a bunch of cables coming off a controller plugged into maybe an MPI, the MPI plugged in there, so it gets messy quickly. And and you look at what the prototype for the CoCo 4, all that stuff would have probably been internalized. You kind of saw it with the Tandy 1000, HX, and
yeah.
There's always the interesting mods. One I'll never forget is from CoCo Fest last year, and that tape deck. Someone put a CoCo 2 in a tape
yeah,
deck.
that's right, in a tape deck case. Yeah,
I was bidding on that too.
And now is really a prime time to do a repack. We got the if you still want an MPI, we got the mini MPI is out. You've got different VGA adapters that you could put inside. So to me, it's mostly about cleaning up the spaghetti of all the wires and just having it in one nice clean package on your desktop.
Yeah, nice small footprint.
Yeah. Well, like you say, I think you mentioned having a custom case. that actually does appeal to me. You know, like you said, especially you combine the kind of a unique appearance with the cleaning up some of the extra, you know, cables and wires and having parts plugged together or whatever. I can see that. I guess that was always a stumbling block for me is when you say repack, I always think of just somebody who's just shoved the guts of a CoCo inside of a beige box baby AT case. Never thought that really looked all that good anyway, you know, and you still, you know, you got the separate keyboard and the monitor. You're not really saving that much. It's maybe a little cleaner, but not a lot. And it doesn't look like a CoCo, you know?
Right.
But yeah, something, you know, more unique in the case or whatever. I think that could be pretty cool. Well, now we've got another project for Neil then is to go into the custom case work and business for that.
Put some funky lights in there and
yeah, get some of those blue lights or whatever that go inside the cases.
Yeah,
that's what we need though. We need to cut a window in the tops of our CoCo 3s. It'd be fun, don't you think? And have the colored lights, and maybe we could have two different colored lights, and one would be like the normal 0.89 megahertz, and then one would, so that'd be blue, and then you'd put on the 1.78 megahertz poke, and then it'd be red.
The turbo mode, and we could liquid cool the gimme chip.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I kind of did something similar to that. You saw it, Mike, when you were here. That CoCo 3 I bought off Wally. It had a Cloud9 PS2 adapter. So what Wally had done is he put where the keyboard was not in there anymore. It was an acrylic, a plexiglass panel, and I actually put a blue light in there, and I used Mike's CoCo On mod there. That thing is great.
Yeah, that was a cool little. You had that light inside of it. So yeah, I forgot about that. That was cool with the plexiglass where the keyboard goes.
Yeah, it had a little switch for the light, and you got to have that CoCo On mod too. You know. You still selling those, Mike?
Still have some, yeah.
Put that up on that site there.
Yeah.
Got a lot of stuff to throw out at CoCo Wares.
Yeah.
Farfall needs to make it there too.
For sure.
Yeah, I've got the email. I just need to send it off. And well, cool. Well, any what else do we need to say about the topic here on repacks?
It's kind of a period that I missed out on because you know, I think a lot of that was going on. Well, certainly I couldn't go to any of the fests there. We'll just kind of see about it and be interesting if people had photos of it. Send them to us. We'd like to see them.
Yeah, we used to see you'd see them at CoCo Fest where people had done a repack, but I haven't seen any of those in a while. I wonder there if that's an issue. You know, if you repack them, do they then get misidentified and then thrown out when you know, when somebody passes or whatever? I wonder if that's a danger.
Yeah,
maybe that's not a huge concern, but.
And then there was a product called the CoCo Expander. I'd only seen drawings of that. I've never actually seen one. Have you seen one of those?
So it's like a multi-pack replacement. Is that right?
No, this was like you took the CoCo and you replaced the bottom of it. It was like a molded case. You could just move. So you had the same top, but you had like a thicker bottom that had enough room to put disk drives in, so you could put everything inside.
Oh, wow.
Well, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, either have I, but I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I was thinking that was a Chris Hawkes project actually, but I should look that up.
Chris Hawkes, he's holding out on us on that one.
Yeah.
So that sounds kind of cool.
The one thing I will say, I'll add in with the repacks is you have to be very knowledgeable, at least in my opinion. I mean, because you have to know electronics for one thing, and you have to be kind of savvy with, you know, just modifying things. Like, you know, whether you're working with plastic or metal, you know, you got to do some drilling, some cutting. So it does take skill to do a proper repack.
I think that's what appeals to me about doing it from scratch rather than just pushing it into an existing case. As you could,
right.
You know, you pick up the skills of, you know, working with metal or plastic or whatever you're using. So
it's a good learning experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, cool. Well, that's expanded things a little bit. Something to look forward to, or look for the expander thing. Maybe those will show up in the next auction at CoCo Fest. Put the bug in someone's ear. If we could just get the Glenside guys to listen to the podcast, then maybe that would happen.
Preferably if you can bring 3 of them.
Yeah, 3 would be good. Well, cool. Well, that's like I said, that's an aspect of the hobby that I'd seen more of in the past, and I haven't seen in a while. But you make some good arguments there about the practical benefits of getting rid of some of the cables and some of the interconnect, and maybe the aesthetic benefits of a custom or semi-custom case. This expander notion you're talking about sounds really cool, where you'd have a replacement case bottom or that you could slide some drives into. That sounds really cool to me. So I don't know, maybe there's some more ground to be plowed there, and extend the hobby in another direction. So that's cool.
And if we encouraged you to do a repack, please keep your original case. Don't hack up the original CoCo 3 case. That's kind of sacrilege.
That's true. That's true.
Put it aside. Put it in the cupboard. Forget about it.
And don't get rid of the keyboard. All right. Well, does that beat it to death then? Are we done?
Yeah, that's a wrap on that one.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I think that was a good discussion, and we'll look forward to whatever we come up with next month for our host discussions. And so now I think we'll take another break and move on to the rest of the show.
Christmas tree, my Christmas tree, lit up like a star. When I see my Christmas tree and loved ones before, Christmas tree, I'm certain wherever you
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.
There go the bells, I hate the bells. Who plays the bells? Please stop the bells. There go the bells, I hate the bells. Who plays the bells? Please stop the bells. Then starts the singing, I hate the singing. Who is that singing? Why do they sing? You may think this is ridiculous, but I am very serious. There go the bells, I hate the bells. There go the bells, I hate the bells. Ding, dong, ding, dong.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
This year, I needed to give a real family pleaser.
Honey, please help me with this budget.
How about a new game, Dad? Please.
And I found it. Radio Shack's Color Computer 2. On sale for just $99.95. It entertains, educates, manages, it's expandable, and affordable. Now that really pleases me.
The Color Computer 2. Sale priced for Christmas. Only at Radio Shack.
All right. Hello, CoCo Cruisers. Welcome back to another technical segment with John. This time we're going to do something a little bit different. Rather than dig into a deep technical discussion of how a certain piece of hardware works, or talking about how to do things with a coding project, this time we're going to have a bit of a review or recommendation of a book that I think many of the people who enjoy these segments would find rewarding to read. The book in question is by Mr. John, John Aycock, Aycock. The name of the book is Retro Game Archaeology, and that's RETROGAME, Retro Game Archaeology, ARCHEOLOGY, which seems like a strange way to spell archaeology to me, but perhaps it's canonical to spell it that way somewhere within the British Empire or whatever, because Mr. Aycock, I see, is a computer scientist in a school in Canada. Yes, Department of Computer Science, University of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So anyway, what is special about this book? Well, this book obviously is talking about retro game archaeology. Well, so what is that? If I can borrow a passage from the book itself, I would define retro game archaeology more precisely in terms of 3 T's. The goal of retro game archaeology is to understand the tools, techniques, and technology used in old games implementation. So, that kind of sets the stage a bit. And then if you'll bear with me as I read a short passage from the preface, it says, I'm not very good at playing computer games. However, through sheer luck, I happen to be alive using computers and playing games at more or less the right time to have experienced the retro game era. I also happened to learn programming and study computer science at a time when there was a strong emphasis on low-level work, when getting a program working sometimes meant being clever enough to sidestep all kinds of limitations. So that speaks to me and probably speaks to a number of you in the audience who have a more technical background. And that may explain what part of your interest in retro computers is that the perhaps greater simplicity and yet greater complexity in some ways of dealing with them back in the day, it has a certain draw. So anyway, he goes on later to say, what I found surprising in my research was that many retro game implementation techniques had modern applications, and not only in games. I won't go so far as to say that retro games were the first to use these techniques or that modern uses are directly inspired by retro games, but I will claim that retro games are an interesting way to learn about them. Furthermore, having taught computer science students in university for many years, I think it's fair to say that modern programmers aren't always exposed to these techniques, nor to the constraints that precipitated their use. This book is an attempt to fix that. Okay, so enough on the sales job, I guess. Now that we have any idea what retro game archaeology is, where you're trying to learn a bit about techniques used back in the day and maybe how they can be useful beyond that, what exactly is in the book? So this is a hardcover book. I think it's 222 pages. So it's not super short, but it's not an overwhelmingly large volume. It's got about, 9 chapters with, titles like memory management, data compression, procedural content generation, obfuscation and optimization, a couple others. Anyway, as you read the book, it takes a number of examples and picks out from a wide variety of programs, some of which aren't even really game programs at all. I know one of the examples uses the Emacs editor, which has traditionally had a rather interesting way of saving state, partly because the Emacs is built so much around a Lisp programming implementation, and it can take a while to reload all that Lisp code. So they invented some kind of sort of a trick to getting that code back up and running quickly when you restart the editor. I'll leave it as an exercise for the reader to discover more about that. But it also talked about some older games, some text-based Unix games, old adventure games. And then it spreads out from there to talk some about Zork and other Infogam games and some of the Scott Adams games. But it just covers a variety of topics, things like how some of these games use virtual machines inside them, how that made in some cases the game code itself portable between different data chunks, so that you could use the same game engine to play different games, which you see some examples of that in our news segment with regard to Guillaume Major porting an AGI-based game to the CoCo 3 that was, whoever wrote that game probably doesn't even know what the CoCo 3 is. Talks about data compression and how strings can be compressed in odd ways and were compressed in odd ways in some of the text-based adventure games. It talks about the use of a couple of different techniques for generating random numbers, or at least numbers that are, if not actually random, at least random enough to use for being useful in a game, and not just using them for, like, say, random events, like explosions or attacks or whatever, but also talks about how that can be used to generate mazes and wall locations or riverbank locations, say in River Raid, or a couple other stuff. It's just, there's a lot of stuff in here, a lot of books and a lot of examples. A lot of pages and with a lot of examples of just old code, and many of them are down to the level of actual showing assembly code, some of which is actually like 6502 assembly code, some of which is one annoyance is he kind of tends to fall back on a pseudocode for representing assembly language that is probably supposed to be easier to read than assembly code, but for being someone who could have read the assembly code, I actually found it more distracting to read his pseudocode in many cases. But yeah, he talks about a number of things in games, talks about how the games are protected, he talks about how data can be scrambled, he talks about the use of virtual machines and how there's different ways to implement them and some of the trade-offs that you're making in those cases. Anyway, it's a pretty cool book. Now, I would definitely recommend this. If you've read any of the platform studies books, particularly Racing the Beam, or maybe The Future Was Here, a couple of the platform studies books aren't quite as in-depth technical as the others, but those two are probably the top technical ones. If you enjoyed those books, I suspect you will really enjoy Retro Game Archaeology. And if you just like academic treatments of old games, again, I suspect you'll enjoy reading this sort of thing. In one of his chapters, he sort of discusses where this work fits in amongst some other games or some other books that are out there, and so he talks about draws comparisons between where the platform studies books are, which platform studies books are about connecting technical details to culture, ultimately is what the intro to that series says. And so it's not just a technical study, but also about how it influenced the culture around those platforms. But then there's other games or other books that are much more esoteric. There's one called 10 Print, which goes into a number of ways to implement a simple maze generating program, which interestingly does include a color computer version if you've ever read the 10 Print book. But that one is very abstract in thinking about software and sort of what it means to the world, and not particularly technical beyond the fact that it's using software. And so anyway, so he says, well, where does retro game archaeology fall into that? And so he'd say that the retro game archaeology falls at the most technical of the end of the spectrum, whereas platform studies, software studies, and what he calls critical code studies falling somewhere in the middle. So I'd say, like I said, this book is a much more technical treatment of old game code than you'll see in pretty much any other book out there, certainly anyone in print. If that appeals to you, then you should definitely check out this book, see if you can find it available. Now, with the bad news, now that I've sold you on this great book and told you how wonderful it is, the bad news is if you go on Amazon, we have a link in the show notes, the hardcover of the book is available brand new for $84.67, which at least is cheaper than the list price of $99. It is available from some other sellers for a little bit cheaper, but you're still talking close to the $70 or $65 or $70 range. There is a Kindle version. The price on that is $74.99, which I will say, at least as someone who's looked at Kindle books before, at least the Kindle price is cheaper than the the actual dead tree price, which so often the Kindle price for a book is as expensive or more than its Dead Tree version, which I've never understood. Anyway, this book just came out this year, published I think in May of 2016. If you are interested in any of the stuff I just talked about, if you're interested in the technical segments I do on this show, I would say there's a really good chance that you'll be interested in this book and you'll enjoy reading it. Particularly if you're a person who's both into retro computing and someone who has a technical background in computer science or computer engineering or just IT in general even, you will probably enjoy this book. I think it is the kind of thing that is helpful if you want to develop your own code. It's obviously it's not a book on programming the color computer, but it is a programming book that discusses some techniques that can be easily leveraged and adapted to writing code for the color computer or, whatever other retro computers you might have an interest in. So from that perspective, I definitely recommend it. If the price seems a bit high, which I can't disagree that it is a little bit of a high price, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you can request it through your local library system. Good luck if that's the case. I hope you'll be able to get it. Otherwise, see if you can find a friend who might be interested in it, and maybe you can go in together on it. All right, well, that's probably enough of me yabbering on about this. It's a good book, Retro Game Archaeology by John Aycock. There's also a couple of links in the show notes to some videos where he's done some talks at other universities talking about essentially this topic. If I haven't been enough to sell you on the book, then maybe those other videos will sell you on it. So check out the show notes for those as well. All right. Well, that's probably all I've got on this before I beat the dead horse any longer. So be good. Take care. Retro forever. And, of course, CoCo. All right. Bye.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
Oh, I remember that Christmas. Dad gave me my first shortwave radio from Radio Shack. What memories. This Christmas, we got our son's Color Computer 3 from Radio Shack. It hooks right up to our TV and was on sale for less than $130. The Color Computer 3 makes learning fun. Jimmy even lets me use it for word process when he isn't playing computer games. Lucky I still got my shortwave.
Save $70 on the sale-priced Color Computer 3, only at Radio Shack.
Okay, welcome back, CoCo Cruisers. We have today with an interviewee, someone from Tandy Engineering back in the day. This is a name some of you may have heard of, Mark Siegel. Joining us on my side of the table will of course be Bill Blanchard. Unfortunately, Mike Rowan is unavailable due to blue in Chicago or something like that. So hopefully Mike is doing well. So Mark, I kind of messed up your role at Tandy Engineering in the email, so maybe we should just start with, can you explain to us what exactly you did at Tandy? Maybe start with when you started at Tandy and how you got to be involved.
Well, I was dealing with Tandy as VP of Engineering at Datasoft, and they fell on a little hard times, so I left there, and Tandy immediately hired me, so I moved to Fort Worth, where I was originally from anyway.
Cool.
I started over in Tandy Electronics R&D, trying to get some new product, new ideas into the color computer area, which I had been doing at Datasoft. It wasn't too long before I was moved over to Radio Shack as a sort of go-between for the outside world, Tandy Electronics, and it just so happened I was involved in all the Tandy computers, not just the color computer. So I wound up becoming product manager of all Tandy Electronics and Radio Shack consumer computer products. So the 1000s, the color computers, the Model 100s as opposed to the business systems, which were the bigger box items. And did that for a couple of years. And mostly during the color computer era, during those times, they also allowed me to direct the design of color computer products. So that's kind of where I started from, where I got to.
Cool. So you're at Datasoft, huh? You were working with Steve Bjork over there?
Yeah, in fact, I hired Steve Bjork.
That's cool. Let's see. So one of the things that we thought would be interesting, since it's this is going to be kind of our Christmas episode, is if since you'd be the man in the know about sort of the phases of or the process of getting a CoCo related product onto the shelves at Radio Shack. Maybe you could run us through what that was like in general, and then maybe talk about the run up to the Christmas season and maybe there's a funny story in there somewhere.
Well, I mean, generally people would submit software to the company. Actually, I'm not sure where they actually submitted it to. All I know is if it wound up getting to somebody of significance, it wound up on my desk to take a look at. At that point, I'd take a look at it, see if it was something we were interested in, get in touch with the person who wrote it. We would talk about it a little bit and see how much they were willing to modify it with stuff that we would want done to it. And then I would go up to the buyer, and at that time the buyer was Barry Thompson. Show it to him, talk to him about it, tell him what I thought whether I thought it was good enough or not. He made the final buying decision as to whether he wanted the product, although I could have easily said, no, we don't want this, and never even got it that far. And, once he said, yeah, I'm interested in it, then I'd go back and negotiate royalties with the writer and what things we'd want changed on it. And basically, once we got those changes, pass it over to our testing group. If they bought off on it, it would go into production.
Mm-hmm. And about how long would that process take? Is that a matter of weeks or months or?
Oh no, that process usually took about between 4 to 9 months.
Okay. So if I show up in August with the cool new game, that's way too late to to get it in.
Yeah, no, it's something. To be in the stores for Christmas, it had to be done by July, because you have to once if it's in the warehouses in July, it takes a couple of months to get out to the stores. At that point, I think there were like 6,400 stores. And, they'd have to have some advertising on it and Christmas spiffs and all sorts of stuff like that. So it would take another, about 2-3 months to get into the stores. And by then you were into Christmas sales.
Yeah. So what about shelf space at the retail stores for the computer products? Did you have a guaranteed amount of space, or did you have to justify it on a regular basis? How much space you needed for new products or that sort of thing?
No. The space was never an issue. if the issue was getting decent product. I mean, all the decent product we could sell, we put out.
Cool.
And I got to tell you, there was a significant amount of indecent product. If you know what people thought was saleable was just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Don't.
Well, it definitely was a different time, and people had different ideas about what might sell or not, I'm sure.
Well, it was not necessarily what people thought. You know, the people had a real inflamed ego type thing that this is a great product when you look at it, and well, you know, take me about 10 minutes in BASIC to write something equivalent to this. So.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like you say, there's but there was a bit of a line or fine line to be had there, I think, because a lot of things you look back on them now, you know, as a professional software developer, and look at this product here. This seems pretty simple, but yet somebody needed that back in the day, so it's better to have it than not to have it. You know,
well, I think part of the problem when evaluating those products in compared to today is that, I mean, most of those were 4 and 8K ROMs. I mean, you know,
right.
Program today's megabytes. You couldn't even get the title screen in 8K.
So true.
No, that's definitely true. So, Neil, what are your thoughts?
You know,
Datasoft had some really nice software, you know, back in the day. I remember. I mean, even stuff I have now here that I've collected.
Yeah, we did a pretty good job. Datasoft was an interesting company into itself. You know, I actually was working for a company previous to that called Programma International, which was like the first third-party software company. And they were bought up by Simon and Schuster, and they split up. And Pat Kitchum, the guy who started Datasoft, was actually one of the people trying to buy Programma. And when the whole thing went down, the two people who actually ran it were trying to sabotage each other and wanted to make sure that neither one of them got me, so I wound up going to work for Datasoft.
Well, so at Datasoft, now, I'm not sure where I got this impression. Maybe it's from talking to Steve Bjork. But did they have, were individuals kind of grouped based on the machines they were familiar with, and then they passed the titles around as they got ported, so that one group would port to the TRS-80s and one group would port to the Apple?
Not at the time I was there. At the time I was there, we only had actually two people writing software on, well, I should say by the time I left, maybe 3 or 4. Most of the people there didn't have Apple experience and didn't have Commodore experience. Most of what they had was Radio Shack computer experience. So those other computers, most of those authors were external and just selling their software to the company to be branded as Datasoft.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
After I left, I'm not sure what happened. I was, we had a pretty good relationship. They pretty much came to me with some ideas, and we would evaluate their product, and they did a good job, and we sold it. It was a little bit more difficult to get them to write OS 9 based code, but they eventually did that too.
Cool. Well, actually that's an interesting transition point. So later in the life of the CoCo, basically all the games or most of the software in general, I guess, was self booting disks. They booted OS 9, and the games ran on OS 9. Did you have any influence over that? And if so,
oh yeah, that was OS 9 becoming the operating system was all me. When I got to Radio Shack, one of the big questions was, all right, we got a disk out there. How do we start selling disk-based software? And obviously, Disk Basic was not really an operating system. And there were a lot of people there that decided that, well, it would be nice to get the guy who wrote Tris-DOS to write a DOS for the color computer, and I quickly nixed that. And really, the only two options were Flex and OS 9, and there was no comparison to the quality operating systems. So it didn't take long to get to negotiate with Microware and get OS 9 ported over.
So that was a positive? Do you think that was a good thing, successful?
Yeah, I mean, as it went, true on, one could argue on the 64K based machines, it didn't afford a lot of space, but the ultimate goal was to move up in memory, and really there wasn't anything else that would have allowed you to do what OS 9 Level 2 does.
Well, that's cool.
A lot of people don't realize that you could call entire blocks of subroutines in OS 9. And not very many people did that because they didn't quite understand how to do it. But you could have written a single program that utilized all of memory.
Yeah.
The other cool thing I think about the OS 9 self-booting disks is that it was easier for consumers to load. Just typing DOS really helped.
Well, yeah, actually, the DOS command I wrote because we had to come up with some way to boot it. That was a interesting problem. I had to get Microsoft to go modify BASIC a little bit so I could plug in some of my own code. They were originally not willing to do that, but we did manage to get them to relent and put in the hooks.
So were they difficult to work with in general, or were they pretty friendly? Or
Microsoft was impossible to work with. Okay. In fact, on several occasions, they basically said, well, if you don't do it this way, then we're going to pull the MS-DOS contract from you. So you kind of had to do what they wanted.
Okay, well, that segues a little bit. So I guess you said that you were managing over all the consumer computers, and which you said basically was the CoCo and the Tandy 1000s and the Model 100s
and just all the weird, MC10s and all that stuff.
But like not the Model 16 or Model 6000. Is that right?
No, those were considered business machines. Those were under somebody else.
Okay. But definitely the 1000 is in there.
Yep.
So there's a feeling amongst some of the remainder of the CoCo community or whatever, I guess, that the CoCo was kind of treated like the redheaded stepchild, shall we say, that the Tandy 1000 line got preference in the long run. How would you respond to that? Do you feel like the 1000 was treated better, or do you maybe feel like
no, it really wasn't treated better, but from a longevity standpoint, Intel was continuing to upgrade their processors, and the Motorola was going nowhere. So
Right.
it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. There just simply wasn't anything else for us to do except to go into the Intel range, and because that's what we were having to compete with. So I mean, it wasn't for lack of not wanting the next generation color computer, but Motorola wasn't generating the next generation 6809. And if you compared the Intel architectures with the 68,000, and a lot of people can argue about this, at the end of the line, Intel processors are much more powerful than Motorola processors ever got.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's certainly true.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that you have to look into the distance and decide into the future and decide what path you're going to go on. The Intel graphics kept getting better. There was Motorola continued no graphics. There wasn't a choice. It was not like, well, we can go in this direction or that direction. There was only one direction to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I can certainly understand that perspective. You have anything new?
No, I was just thinking it does make sense. I mean, Radio Shack needed a path to go, and if Motorola wasn't really providing it, I mean, I guess it made sense to go the Intel route.
Well, I mean, and not only that, that's where the competition was. It would have been great if there had been some other processors that offered a competition, but you look at what happened to Atari and Commodore and all those items, and they got to their 68,000, they just died. There was no further movement on those systems.
Mm-hmm.
They went a little bit longer, but they kind of hit a brick wall.
Well, I mean, you have to look out 5-6 years, and they couldn't tell you what was happening next year. Intel had a chart that went all the way up through Pentium by that point.
Oh wow!
So we knew what those processors were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know they had a lot more money to make that happen than anybody else.
Yeah, I've seen charts like that from Intel in my current life, so I definitely know what you mean by having a long-term plan, and so definitely gives you confidence in the company. Also, Mark, what are you most proud of from back in your time at Tandy? What do you think was your best achievement?
I think the Color Computer 3 was a really fine achievement. I mean, if you look at what's in that system, the design of the home computer today is basically the same thing. They've got analog displays, they've got DAC sound systems, they're multitasking. I mean, if you go point by point what's in a Color Computer 3, the computer today has all those same things in it, and that can't be said for basically any other computer of its time of that time frame.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there that the kind of the basic architecture there that is, like you say, on the one hand, it's lacking some of the specific offloads or whatever, but it actually, in many ways, is more like a modern machine, certainly more flexible. So that's cool.
And it also kept a good price point as well.
Well, Tandy was pretty hard about their price points. It's got, they said, well, this machine has to sell for this price, not 1 cent more. and we have to make this much profit on it, not 1 cent less. So the budget you had was, you just had to decide what you could do with that money. And I think we made some good decisions on the Color Computer 3. I know there are people out there that would argue differently, but as I say, if you compare that system to a system today, they're pretty close.
Well, that's cool. Well, then let me ask you, what would you do different if you could go back and have those days again? What would you do differently?
I've thought about that on many occasions, and the answer is probably not a damn thing. The only thing I might do slightly differently is reorganize how we did the programmable interrupt generator, and but that's about it. I mean, it's.
I was going to say, it's a pretty specific design point.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of how we could have optimized that dollar level any better.
Mm-hmm.
What's your guys' feeling on that?
Well, like I say, I think the big takeaway point that you communicated, and that I've heard both from you and some other folks from time to time, is the big dollar squeeze there. That you have to kind of frame everything else under that perspective. That every decision had to be a trade-off for the cost effectiveness. And so once you put that framework around it, I do think you've come up with a pretty good set of compromises. I think one thing that people hit on the color computer, including the 3, is maybe the lack of a sound generator. But with the interrupt generator and the timer, you can generate a pretty good range of sounds programmatically that makes up for a lot of that, and it's certainly more flexible. I guess the other big hit on the CoCo has always been the graphics on the CoCo 1 and 2, which you kind of were living with the chipset from Motorola, so you can only do really what they.
And they weren't going to do any more for that chipset than they already did. I mean, it was like pulling teeth to get them to put the lower case in.
Yeah.
I agree, though. I mean, considering that strict budget, I mean, the CoCo 3 is one fantastic system. I mean, when you compare it with, an IBM XT with CGA graphics, I mean, the CoCo 3 really blows it away.
If you're looking at an XT, the 6809 was every bit as fast as the 8088. So, the only advantage they had was a little bit more memory.
Yeah, I mean, I think the CoCo 3 even compares reasonably favorably against the Apple II GS, which probably does have a little more clock cycle budget. But overall, though, I think they're kind of in the same league. So, I mean, that's
but
for
the Apple was also 3 times the price.
Yeah, exactly. For the price difference, the CoCo definitely is a winner on value. So,
I mean, if I'd have had that budget, it would have been a much, it probably would have been equivalent to today's machine.
Yeah, very cool. Well, so Mark, I know you've been kind of back in contact with Boise while he was writing his book, and some of the rest of us through a project to get the cartridge case reproductions, or whatever, redesign, shall we say.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, I know you're aware of the retro scene, shall we say, that there's people still playing with these old machines and doing even new things with them. What do you think of that? This echo from so much earlier in your career. Do you think we're all crazy, or
Well,
Do you
no, I
understand
mean,
it?
you know, I look at it as the same people who like the sports cars from the 50s and 60s.
Oh yeah.
You know, those machines were actually a lot easier to program than today's stuff. On today's computer, there's virtually no way to get down to the hardware level. And that's actually a pretty interesting place to be, unless you want to get into building your own microchip-based or you know some of the other Atmels or some of the other board level stuff out there. Getting to actual being able to program stuff at the hardware level just doesn't exist today. So, you know, I don't know why other people do it, but if I were doing it, that's why I would be doing it.
Well, that's cool. Also, I wanted to make you aware of something. I don't think you're probably not aware of because we've only been doing it for a little while. We've started planning on an event. I know you're aware of CoCo Fest, right? Which
Yep.
we do a yearly event where we have people out to celebrate the color computer. Well, we've started working on in collaboration with another podcast that's dedicated to the business line, shall we say, the Z80 line of TRS-80s, and we're looking to produce a festival, shall we say, that we're calling Tandy Assembly, and we're planning to have a gathering next October in Chillicothe, Ohio. I wonder if you might be interested in penciling that in. Maybe you could join us. You're certainly welcome.
Well, I'll certainly put it down and see if it's something I can get to, but yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not going to pin you down, but you're certainly welcome to attend, and anything we can do that would help you, make the decision to come would let us know. And if there's anyone else that from back in the day that might be interested, any Tandy folks, definitely help us get in contact with them, and we'd like to have as many people to come and help us celebrate 40 years of Tandy computers as we possibly can. I don't suppose you have a line for Steve Leininger.
No. I actually only met the guy about 3 times while I was there. He was one of those people that I think pretty much by the time I got there, he was just doing consulting.
Oh, yeah. He kind of moved on to other things. Cool. But, no, that's cool. Anyway, we would, like I say, extend the invitation for you to come, and, if we can help make that happen, let us know. And, like I say, anybody that you come across, you bump into somebody, say, hey, maybe those guys would like to talk to this guy, or, something they might want to know, do feel free to put us in contact. I think that would be cool. So, Neil, what else do you have? You got anything else?
No, not that I could think of. That's I was just going to mention the Tandy Assembly, but you did a great job of that. That's perfect. It'd be great to have you there, Mark.
Well, if I can get there, I will.
Cool. So that's going to be in Chillicothe, Ohio, in early October 2017. We'll get you more specifics as time progresses. Okay, well, so I guess the one question left for you, Mark, would be what question did I not ask you?
I don't know, but this has not been very long.
No. Well, let's see. Any good Barry Thompson stories?
No, I understand he's no longer with us, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. For those who aren't aware, Barry Thompson is the voice in our theme song, saying, "Hey, have you got your CoCo 3 yet?" So.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I think the other thing that kind of ended the CoCo 3 or the CoCo career was when they hired the VP from IBM to, he only wanted to do IBM-like products, so that was a bit of a problem.
So did that influence the Tandy 1000?
Yeah. I mean, he had upper management's ear and got them to go pretty much IBM like, even though we differed from IBM a huge amount.
Just a random question. Are you familiar with the TV series *Halt and Catch Fire*?
Yes.
Are you a fan of that? And I was wondering if that.
I got to tell you, I watched the show and trying to relate it back to how stuff actually happened, and they weren't very close.
No.
on pretty much anything.
No, well, shocking that Hollywood would maybe not get that right, huh?
Well, I thought maybe they had a chance. It was a good idea for a series, and they certainly could have hired some people that were in the business to try and make things more realistic. But and I got to tell you, some of the stories from the actual being there were a lot more fun than they came up with. So.
Oh yeah. Does any of those come to mind right now?
Well, none that I would tell. Were you guys ever the early Rainbow Fests?
No, I'm probably a little too young for that. I know it would have been cool to go to some of those.
So if you're really too young for the machine, what got you guys involved in them?
Well, I got a CoCo when I was in the 4th grade. It was my first computer. After I had, I had some experience in school with an Apple II, and then we had a teacher taking us down to the local Radio Shack Computer Center for some classes in BASIC that was taught on a Model 3. And then my dad was a ham, so he spent plenty of time in a Radio Shack back in the day. And one day he came home with a color computer. And so that was my first computer. And spent many an hour typing away, typing in programs, or writing some of my own, that sort of thing.
What year was that?
Let's see, that would be 81, maybe? Fall of 81, I'd say is probably right. So,
okay, that would have been a brand new color computer then.
Yeah.
And for myself, I got involved in the CoCo because the Color Computer 3 was my first computer, and that's going in 1988.
And did you get a whole system or just the computer?
I got a whole system minus the monitor, so I used a TV for a little while until I saw how nice the CM8 was, and then I had to upgrade later on. And it was actually
would you have made any different choice now that you know what you know?
No, actually, I'm very happy I started the CoCo 3 because, like I said, at that time, a lot of my friends had PCs, but the graphics are pretty poor on it. Being with most everybody I knew had a CGA graphics card. And, the Color Computer 3 just outshined that. And it's actually a funny story how I wound up getting a CoCo 3 as my first computer. It was all because Radio Shack had a sale on. And they had a blowout sale for $99 for the CoCo 3. Now, that's just the machine, but, that was just an amazing price.
Yeah, I can't imagine what somebody was thinking, but that's a hell of a price for that machine.
But then you make up for it when you buy the disk drive and the other peripherals, so...
Well, you did that with every other computer out there too. Atari disk drives and all those things were just really expensive.
Yeah, that's so true. Mark, it was great talking to you, and Unfortunately, I have to cut out of this interview because we started a little bit late, but definitely thanks for being a part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark, it's been great talking, and I think we got some good content here. I definitely appreciate you talking to us. And like I said, I hope maybe we can see you at Tandy Assembly.
All right.
Great to see you there.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You're only young once, but you can be retro forever. A single spark of imagination can ignite the flame of the extraordinary. Introducing Tandy Assembly, the first gathering completely dedicated to Radio Shack and Tandy computer enthusiasts. Extraordinary. Recapture the excitement of the early days of Radio Shack microcomputing. Relive the Tandy evolution of MS-DOS compatible systems. Meet people who continue to support and expand these retro computer systems. New products, new software, new ideas. A single spark of imagination. From Pocket Computer to Tandy 6000. From Z80 to 486. You're only young once. We're not finished rediscovering our most beloved computers. Join us at Tandy Assembly. Retro forever. Something new is coming. October 2017. Tandy Assembly.
All right, welcome back to the Games Corner. Before we jump into the Games Corner, I'd like to take a brief moment and mention my latest vintage computer event I attended earlier this month. It's called World of Commodore, and it's held in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It is put on by the Toronto Pet Users Group, called TPUG. It is also very easy to remember the fest dates because it is held on the first Saturday and Sunday of every December. Although I'm not a huge Commodore guy, I started going to this event because I figured it's only 1 hour drive for me, and hey, why not go check it out? This was my third year going. I have met some great people there, such as Walter Maraglia, who is also a CoCo and TRS-80 Model 4 fan. I'm mentioning this event here because it reminds me a lot of CoCo Fest. The TPUG Users Group has been around for many years, just like Glenside has been for CoCo Fest. They managed to bring in some cool guest speakers to give a talk. This past year, they got Bill Hurd to show up and give a talk on the Commodore 128. Although it is a Commodore-based event, you will see other machines there. The past 2 years, I've noticed CoCo 2s being given away on the freebie table. I've also noticed Jim Brain shows up every year and has a table selling and talking about his latest hardware. If you ask or look closely, you just may see some of his CoCo creations. One last thing I will mention is I've heard them talking about someday turning this event into a multi-platform fest, something similar to VCF. I'm not trying to start any rumors or promise this will happen. I'm just mentioning what I was hearing from someone at the event. For all I know, this could just be false information. For my sake, I would be thrilled if it does turn into a multi-platform event like VCF, especially because it's so close to home. Well, if you're listening to this podcast and you live not far from the Toronto area, or you're going to be in the Toronto area the first weekend in December, I highly recommend coming to check this event out. You just may even see a CoCo there being given away. Okay, back to the Games Corner. In this episode, I'd like to discuss a few different things. First off, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Mark McDougall for saving me big time last month on doing a review for Popstar Pilot. By the way, I have received my copy. It came in about 2 weeks ago. I've spent some time playing it, and I'm definitely impressed. And just like Mark mentioned in his review, this is definitely not a typical 2D shooter dodging gobs of bullets. This is more of a strategic side-scroller, and let me tell you, it is brutally difficult. Just to be clear, this is not a bad thing. It's just from the screenshots and videos I've seen of this game running, it looks way easier than it is. I honestly thought I'd be able to finish this game the first night I got it. Ha, fat chance of that. Highest I've made it so far is the start of level 3. I'm looking forward to spending some more time playing Popstar Pilot over the holidays. And the other thing I look forward to playing over the holidays is Christmas demos. This may sound silly, but every year I like to load up and run some Christmas demos on my CoCo. Now you may ask, what Christmas demos? Well, here are a few of my all-time favorites. First on the list is the original Radio Shack Christmas demo written by Spectral Associates in 1986 for Radio Shack. This demo was played in Radio Shack stores during Christmas time to showcase the Color Computer 3, showing off its brilliant high-res color graphics, animation, and sound. I don't want to give the whole demo away in case you have not watched it yet, but it starts off with workers on an assembly line loading a Radio Shack truck. I wonder what happens next. Second on the list is the Sierra Christmas card demo. And it's funny how we just talked about AGI video games in the news segment this month. This is a very interesting demo for the CoCo 3 because technically back in the day it wasn't available for the CoCo 3. But since it is the same code as a Sierra AGI video game, it was discovered and ported over to the CoCo under Nitrous 9, along with all the other Sierra games we missed out on back then. When first loading this demo, it asks you to enter a special message. It will then animate it on a Christmas card. There are also lots of other cool screens and music. I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. Both of these demos I mentioned require a Color Computer 3 and can also take advantage of 512K memory. They can be downloaded from the Color Computer Archive website. We will be sure to put links in the show notes. While you're on the Color Computer Archive, look for other Christmas demos, as there are many for the CoCo, even for your Color Computer 1. Be sure to do some searching when you're on there. And to top it off, after you are all demoed out, you can play a round or two of John Linville's Xmas Rush game. And, the good thing, it is CoCo 1, 2, and 3 friendly. Now you have no excuse not to use your CoCo over the holiday season. No CoCo should go powered off during the holidays. Hook a projector up and let some demos loop in the background. Or better yet, set a CoCo station up in your kitchen for when your family and friends come over. You just know they'll be totally impressed seeing what a real computer can do. And most importantly, they will know you have style.
There's no place I'd rather be right now than right here with you, listening to the CoCo Crew Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is a Plumpy Pig with my little take on Blue Christmas. Enjoy. I'll have a blue Christmas without you. I'll be so blue just thinking about you. The decorations of red on a green Christmas tree won't be the same, girl, if you're not here with me. And when those blue snowflakes start falling, that's when those blue memories start calling. You'll be doing all right with your Christmas of white. And I'll have a blue Christmas.
Back to more retro goodness with the CoCo Crew.
Well, we have reached the end of episode 19 and the end of 2016. It's the end of the year. I can't believe it's been 20 plus shows already. I'd like to thank our host John Linville for painstakingly gathering all the news each month and providing us a book review instead of a text segment this month. I thought the Canadian author was a nice touch. Also, I'd like to thank Mike Rowan yet again for making some of the coolest commercials and sound bites. Also nice to have you as a full-time partner on the podcast now. Thanks also goes out to Mark Siegel for giving us your time for the interview. And most importantly, we'd like to thank all of you for listening each month. Like I've said before, if we didn't have you listening, we would just be talking to ourselves. That'd be kind of silly. Keep your feedback coming in. We'd like to hear from you. We hope everyone has a fantastic CoCo holiday season and best wishes for a new year. To more CoCo time, more CoCo projects, and remember, keep your CoCos on nice and toasty all holiday season. Until then, see you all in 2017 for episode 20. CoCo forever.